Hello. I don't
Hey.
have our outline up.
Dude, get it.
What's an
Gotta
outline?
We got a guest here, man. We got
Yeah.
look,
Yeah, I'm all discombobulated because I just got home and just ate and just sat down in front of my computer.
Oh man.
Anyway, welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is
And I am
episode.
t-shirted.
Go ahead.
No.
What?
You're good. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh,
This is episode 76 of our podcast, and the date is Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. We have with us today T-shirted historian.
hey guys, how's everybody out there in YouTube land?
Hey, everybody's here. Oh, they're starting to get here. Martinson, Legion of Myth. What's up, guys?
All right. Yeah, we got to. This past weekend has been kind of hectic for me. I spent all day yesterday reducing clutter. Clutter's it's a monster. If you don't tame it, it takes over everything.
Yeah.
So
Hank, look back here. Can you see?
Yeah. You need to take care of that, or it will
Hello, clutter. No, it's all right. It's coming in.
That's a little dramatic. It won't kill you. It will just make your usable space much smaller.
My pod is removing my gaming stuff in, and slowly but surely.
Yeah, stay close to that mic, dude.
Bring me my game.
You go lean too far back, we can barely hear you.
Oh, yes, I know.
All right, so we played a role-playing game.
We did.
So,
we face to face, went at the table, rolled dice, and we're even going to talk about it tonight later on. So
face to face, I know you all are jealous.
Yes. 5 people in a room, rolling dice, breathing the air. Each one of us breathes, living dangerously. Life on the edge, baby.
Yeah, like we did, like we've always have, and we never fell over dead. So
no, not one of us.
So, it was fun. I guess we both have gotten Sunsworn.
Oh, I've ordered it. I haven't received it.
Yes, ordered. Yes.
Wait a minute. Hold on. T-shirt. Did you get to play this week? Did you get a game in this week?
Yeah, I played on Thursday and Friday.
Very nice. What did you play? We played Savage Worlds.
Thursday I ran Castles and Crusades.
Oh.
And Friday it was kind of our 3.x / Pathfinder first edition campaign.
Oh, cool.
What is it? Do you just use your own set of rules?
I mean, basically, it's kind of like my GM for Pathfinder. He kind of crams 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder all kind of together to mix and match and just kind of use what he wants and not one particular unified setup. And he's got his own custom rules.
They're not that different.
No.
Yeah.
Like first and second edition D&D, you could interchange things pretty easily. Third and 3.5 only had some minor differences, really.
Pathfinder too. So do you find it weird though with like power attack? I mean, 3.0, 3.5, and Pathfinder all have a slightly different power attack, don't they?
Yeah, some of those things do come up during play. Cleave works differently in Pathfinder than it does in 3.5, 3.0.
Right.
But usually we just hash it out there at the table. It's kind of like, okay, well, which version of this are we using? And, for some reason.
Table, like at the beginning or during play?
Usually during play. We're just like right in the middle.
Oh, boy. Does it change session to session, or do you we haven't decided this yet. What are we doing? Okay, this is what we're doing. And then you do it from that point forward?
It just kind of depends. Our players don't use it all that much. But when it comes up, it just becomes a case of, you asking the GM is like, okay, well, which version of Cleave are we using this time? Or,
Right. Wow.
And we experiment with it sometimes too. We throw out certain rules like he ran one game without AOO, and that did not work so well in my opinion because I had picked a large critter, and it was kind of like, you just took my best thing away from me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You have to, that's one thing I found about messing with the third edition engine. I felt like first and second, and definitely original D&D, they all lent themselves well to house ruling and changing rules and messing around with it. It's not that third edition won't, but you got to watch some things. Removing AOOs changes the game dramatically.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you have a large creature, so you're counting on being able to either control the battlefield in a way because people are the other players or the DM has to consider that. But if you just take them out, then
yeah, and I think that's part of the problem. It's one of the reasons why I personally do not prefer 3.x and Pathfinders. Like, as much as I love Pathfinder First Edition's customizability, it bothers me the fact that you really can't make a lot of house rules without, it's kind of like if you pull the brick out, then the whole house starts to tumble down because it is so rules crunchy and everything is so well defined for every single thing that you want to do in the game. But at the same time, I also find that is an extremely limiting factor because let's say you want to do something crazy like whip your sword out, run across the room, jump on a banister, and then leap to a chandelier, swing across the room, and attack the guy on the other side as you land.
3 rounds later.
Exactly. Exactly. Whereas Castles and Crusade, they're 10-second rounds. It's possible to do all of it in one round. All you got to do is, maybe make two or three siege checks at best, and go on with your day. It's like, or because here's the thing: the more crunchy a rule system gets, the more it actually inhibits player creativity, in my opinion.
It depends on how integrated those crunch is. If with AOOs and large creatures and reach thing, there are so many interdependencies that that can limit someone. That can limit your ability to tinker with the rules because things are so heavily integrated. You can have a fairly heavy crunch game as long as everything is modular.
Well,
yeah.
I agree with T-shirt. I think I agree with you because here's what I would say. In my experience, the more we played, starting with 3.0, and I found myself changing to as a game master through 3.5 and Pathfinder, we became more. If someone said, "Hey, I want to do this," we would immediately go, "How does that work in the rules?" That would always be the question because there's probably a rule for it. G-Rock, make sure you if you haven't subbed yet, please do so and hit the bell. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
Yes, definitely, Baron. Thank you very much.
Yep. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's one of the drawbacks to a crunchy system. Well, at least Pathfinder, I used to say there's a rule for every situation and a situation for every rule. And it was rare that we had a situation at the table where the rules could not cover it in some way, which is good on one hand, but it's like tedious on another.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Just the way that actions break down. You have immediate actions, you have free actions, and you have interrupting actions. All these other things. Standard action, full action, movement action, or full out action. All these actions, when they start getting broken down, break the game down to the point where it inhibits what you can do. I started out with first edition D&D and then mostly played a lot of second edition because, second edition kind of came out a little bit closer to the older I got. So, and second edition had all the really cool settings that I liked. I liked Dark Suns. I liked Ravenloft. I liked all the settings. Planescape, yeah.
Oh,
I would even go so far as to say Spelljammer, because come on now, that was fun.
I love Planescape. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Spelljammer sounds fun. And then you look at some of the stuff and you're like, these guys didn't think of this they didn't think through very well on some of this stuff. They could have. I think that they went too technical on the phlogiston and how all that crap works instead of just saying you have a ship, it goes through the air, and you can go into whatever space is, and go out there and get eaten by a giant space monster if you really want to. But
just call it the space between the worlds and go, because it kind of has that swashbuckling Saturday afternoon. I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
magic ships. We're doing magic stuff, and we can be pirates. How crazy is that? Why are we worrying about the technicalities?
Well, I mean, this is kind of a hot take. I mean, see if you agree with me or not. But as go the editions, also went film, because like, okay, in the 80s you had all the really cool sword and sorcery films. You had Sword and the Sorcerer, you had Krull, you had Conan, you had just Deathstalker. You had movies that were just stupid but fun, and in a way your D&D games kind of mirrored those things. I mean, come on now, did you ever, like watch the Sword and the Sorcerer and then somebody didn't run around with a 3-bladed sword that shot blades? I mean, come on. Or you saw the Archer and everybody was running around with the Heartbow, or everybody was running around with Stormbringer and Mournblade from Elric.
The Air Claw.
Yeah.
Claw thing that
the Krull, yeah, the Glaive.
Yeah,
I have to admit, most sword and sorcery movies from the 80s I didn't like.
Well, okay. You didn't have
but
to
I get
like
what you're
them.
saying. Huh?
You didn't have to like them, but they were cool.
Well, that's kind of they're kind of mutually exclusive for me. I liked Krull. I knew it wasn't a great movie, but that had some coolness to it.
Yeah.
But Sword and the Sorcerer, and I tried. I tried so hard to watch that movie.
The elf with a bow that never ran out of ammo.
It was so awful. I couldn't do it. Jack Palance intimidating someone by cutting a cake with his sword.
Yep.
Ha!
A piece of bread. He cut a piece of bread with his sword. Yeah, I just saw that recently.
I will slice you a piece of cake. Okay. Now you'll bow to me.
Or drowning a guy in his oatmeal.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah.
I think the sword intimidating the whatever scene, that was my last scene. I was like, I'm out.
Well, I mean, yes, that stuff was goofy. It was fun. But the thing is, it was the stuff of dreams. It was the stuff of, enjoyment, legends, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we had a lot of literature to draw from at the time, like Elric. We had Howard. Yeah. We had all these great things, Dragon Riders of Pern. And no, I'm not forgetting Beastmaster, Hungry Ewok. I remember Beastmaster.
Yes. What were those? Now, I don't know if they ever named them. The creatures that I guess they could fly and then digest on the outside of their body. Well, technically, their stomach was in their wings.
Yeah.
I've never seen
rapid. They were fast.
Yes.
I've never seen Beastmaster.
Oh my God, Randy, you gotta watch it.
I know. I am that's bad. Well, only this year did I watch The Fifth Element.
Okay, well we're gonna get there. We're not there yet though. We're still kind of stuck in the 80s.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So second edition kind of comes along and it's more 90s, and then you notice that the 90s fiction starts to add more, like plausibility to things. And I was like, we're trying to explain things a little bit better. The movies kind of get a little bit more technical. CG starts to happen.
Good writing. There's good writing.
I didn't say that.
A little bit better.
Maybe a little bit better. Yeah.
A little bit.
Maybe a little bit better.
Tiny bit better actors, tiny bit better writing. Mm-hmm. The CG was still kind of
Then
Dark
about
Crystal,
the time
though.
Dark Crystal. That's still 80s though.
Not seen.
That was 80s. Well,
yeah,
then that
still
was
80s.
That one for me was a standout among all of them because I mean it was goofy that it was all puppets essentially, but I think all the voice acting and everything was pretty well done.
Yeah. Baron G. Rux is Bubba Hotep. Okay, Bubba Hotep was 90s Bubba.
Yeah.
Or Baron. So we're not there yet.
Different genre too.
Yeah, it was horror.
Funny though, good movie.
Yeah, it was. So third edition comes around. Now we have super duper rules crunch, and by the same token, all of our sci-fi, all of our fantasy, and everything else. Everybody wants to see everything codified. They want it all explained. They want to know how it works, etc. And it's just like as times change, so does the fantasy. And the fantasy stops being quite as free because now we want explanations for how everything works. And this kind of played into Lord of the Rings and Dragonheart and all these other things.
I think you make. I never thought about that with the '90s, especially early '90s, late '80s. Second edition, the advent of second edition was '89, right?
I think that's about right. Yeah.
And so when it came around, a lot of the crap the second edition will catch, even from me, even Planescape suffer from this. They would write modules that try to be stories. So they're not Hawk the Slayer. They try to tell you. I mean, I can remember, was it Dead Gods? I think it was Dead Gods. Maybe it's the Modron March, the Great Modron March, where the PCs come to a town, and I first noticed Monty Cook. And I'm not pooping on him for this, but he did. He was scripting their reactions, so they'll see this and they'll go over here and they'll talk about that and they'll do this. And I'm like, your PCs might be different than mine. Mine might just give them the finger and move on down the road.
And Martinson says, yeah, 2000s. Yeah, my apologies, 2000s. Yeah, Willow was 80s because I was still back in school when Willow came out.
Yeah, Willow I liked too.
Yeah, Willow was fun. But again, it was still in that era of silly high fantasy. You know, we could do whatever we want to. Action adventure doesn't necessarily have to make sense because you got silly shit in there like the brownies and stuff.
Yeah, those were the comic relief, but there was a higher caliber, I think, of acting and writing.
I watched Willow it recently
compared to others.
I watched Willow recently, and I would say, while it's definitely it feels even a little cheesier than it did back then, it still holds up fairly well. It's still a fun movie. So, for me.
And like I said, 2000, that's when 3.0 hit. And that's when all the 2000 movies started hitting, which we didn't have a whole bunch of fantasy in 2000, but we did have some. We had that horrible Dungeons and Dragons film with all the CG and two sequels, and we had Lord of the Rings. We had
Lord of the Rings is the and I'm honestly not retrograding my assessments of these movies. I didn't like them when I saw them first, many of them that everybody raves about, especially Hawk the Slayer. I don't know why anybody likes that movie.
I love that movie.
It could fade into the ether and the world would be better for it.
But, I'm in the middle. Middle. I see the fun in
it. I think it takes itself a little too seriously.
Hawk the Slayer?
Yeah.
But that's why it's so fun, because it takes itself really but your characters and everything took themselves seriously way back in the 80s too.
We were WWF.
Yeah.
With the Norse and the Norse and Greek and Roman mythos. We were serious gamers.
No.
And by that same analogy too, 2000s is also kind of when the Attitude Era of the WWE, it was back then still, started coming back in, and everybody realized, oh yeah, it was all fake, it's scripted, it's storylines, we're not even trying to be realistic.
Yeah, so it was a big show,
right? And something about the myth kind of diminished a little bit.
I agree.
And the same thing kind of happened to our role-playing games. More scripted modules started coming out with big, giant blocks of flavor text. Your characters walk into a room and you see this hollow idol sitting in the center of the room. There are tiles all about, and it is a 10-foot by 30-foot space with torchlight glowing. And I mean, you're just going, trying to keep awake.
Yeah, it could get out. It could get out of a hand. Well, to be fair though, and you're making a good point. If you didn't give all that detail, and all the rules of the game require that the players, they know all their position, they got to know all the things. They walk in that room, and the statue comes alive. I'm like, hey, you didn't say it looked like a golem. If it looked like a golem, I should get a knowledge arcana check to tell that. I mean, it's just like, that. And by the way, that was a big pet peeve of mine. Joe knows that. I hate the identifying monsters just because you showed up at first level. You can identify the most obscure thing if you get a 20. It's like, come on. This is one of the Monster Manual 4. You've never seen this, Joe.
Yeah, and I know that I'm a proponent of, if it says it in the rules, I should be able to do it.
Correct.
However, over time, I have come to, Well, I don't read the monster manuals anyway of the game I'm a player in,
Yeah.
and not DMing, because I want to be surprised. I don't like to just know everything, because then it's boring.
Yeah.
And then so all of those skills, it specifically said you have knowledge of these monsters. And I'm okay with there being a small group of monsters that most people have some familiarity with, even if it's rumors. But then if it's rumors, then you have a chance for it to be wrong, and then you can discover what's right, and then you can try to tell people what's right, and then they're going to tell you to jump. I know what these things are, but
I know what it was. If you
but that's all good role playing stuff.
But role playing.
I remember, like, you'd have, like, you make a check, knowledge arcana. If you get between a 10 and a 15, you tell them one piece of information. If it gets between a 15 and 20, they get 2 pieces of information, and all that sort of stuff. It got a little bit frustrating. Legion, no, you get a knowledge arcana check if you tell me you're looking for a golem or the statue that becomes a golem, not just entering the room. I don't care how the actual rule reads. I agree.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of like, how are you going to be able to tell them it's a golem unless you have prior knowledge already? It's kind of like it's like a catch-22.
Yeah,
it's like,
so
if you've already read.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you've already read the monster manual and you know that such a thing exists, then somehow your character magically knows to ask about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. And then
it's hard, and it's hard because people memorize the monster manuals. They go and read the adventures and stuff like that, and it's not ideal for the game. So it's better to make your own stuff anyway. So still have golems, because golems are cool. You just have different ones.
Yep.
Yeah. One thing I found is that go ahead.
Oh. So then we got the 4th edition, which was trying to ape World of Warcraft, and nobody really talks about that one because it was terrible, and most people tried to forget that one.
They so denied it, left and right. We're not trying to emulate video games. And we're like, yeah, you are. You're using all the words. That's what you're doing, and which is okay, because the on one level, because the games emulated the tabletop game for a while.
Right.
So it's kind of coming full circles kind of thing. It's not like video games do everything wrong or bad, or people like video games. So maybe a tabletop game could borrow an element or two from video games in general somehow. I don't know what that would be, but
take good inspiration where you can find it.
Sure.
No problem.
But also admit it.
Yeah.
Don't lie. I mean, why lie? Everybody knew they were lying.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're in 5th edition. The movies suck for the most part because they're all just CG crap.
And their script, they all follow a particular formula.
Mm-hmm. And the writing is garbage.
Yeah.
Because we already know what's going to happen. And by the same token, look at 5th edition. We're going to have story games. The players aren't going to get hurt as much, or they're going to be much harder to kill, because that would turn young children and younger players off.
Yeah.
Because heroes don't die in movies.
Yeah, but don't you want to get to see the whole story? That's like one of our buddies who's on tonight told me he likes to play some of the RPG video games, the ones that have different levels of challenge. He'll play it on easy mode because he wants to see the whole story.
Mm-hmm. Martinson, World of Warcraft tabletop game based on 3.0, 3.5. I actually do have the old World of Warcraft 3.5 rules. They were expensive, man, because I had to buy it back copy of it. But I remember those. I got them.
Yeah.
I have the Wheel of Time. It's not a video game, but it's an IP.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like, when they put out the OGL, everything went 3.0, 3.5.
And at one time, I thought that was great. There was a moment when I was really into my 3rd edition. I remember a friend of mine was playing. We were talking early on. I said, I bet they're going to do a D20 vampire. And he's like, no way. I said, you can write it down. And they did. I mean, Monty Cook did World of Darkness D20. I don't remember if it was good or not. I owned it for half a minute.
I don't think anybody liked it.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody liked it.
And, I used to think, man, that's great, one rule system to rule them all, but I don't think it was all that great. So
yeah, we played GURPS for a while back in the 90s, and we tried to play vampire GURPS. It didn't work out quite so well.
Oh, right. Well, GURPS had all kinds of different things. Was it trying to emulate the masquerade thing, or was it doing its own thing?
No, it was trying to faithfully reproduce all the rules and stuff into GURPS, but it was kind of not well translated in most parts.
Dude, side comment. We got to see this. Baron G Rock, 11 people at his table. Is that common, or is that something you did once? I ran 10 players through a first level Dungeon Magazine first edition module, Ravenloft. I had 10 players in a Ravenloft game. That was crazy.
Wow.
That's something else. And it was fun.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Three who had never played before.
Crazy is fun.
Yeah.
At your table.
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, it can get too crazy, but being a little, not everything all structured and rigid and all that. Having 10 people, you can do that.
I said once for a while RPG. Yeah. Oh, I remember now. I played
Curved
WoW.
it to 8.
Yeah, I played that WoW game, the 3.01 or 3.5 at Gen Con when it came out. One of the did the vampire people, did Sword and Sorcery their imprint for?
Yeah,
they did that.
White Wolf.
Yeah, White Wolf, and they ran it, and it was fun. But I remember the guy was showing us the book afterwards, and their dragons. Oh, you want a tough dragon? They had dragons with thousands of hit points.
I loved Sword and Sorcery. I loved their IP. I loved their setting. I loved everything about it. I ran Hollow Faust and some of that other stuff for a while.
Oh yeah, so I ran the Scarred Lands. That was great.
Scarred Lands.
I have nearly all those.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was good stuff.
Good.
Isn't that swords? Is that swords and
Sword and Sorcery?
It was a White Wolf imprint.
Right.
D20.
Okay. Oh, I'm thinking Swords and Wizardry is the other game.
No,
it's the OSR clone. Right.
They came out with the first monster manual for 3.0.
Yes.
It was out before the actual monster manual.
I have a couple of their books over there. I have a creature collection and something else. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Now, here, watch this, Joe. I'm going to drag this into the topic you want to talk about tonight. Okay, so we're up on 5th edition. We have bad movies, bad games, story games, games where you can't die, etc., etc. Even to the point where GMs have to have permission to kill your character, or worse, GMs fudge dice in the favor of characters and situations. Sir.
Well played. You slid that bad boy right into the topic.
And that's right where we are now.
Segue.
Yeah,
segue.
Baby. Nicely done. So death. Oh yes. Can I say something here? T-shirt and I were talking a little bit before Joseph joined us. So I got Berserk. Oh, Berserk. I read it about 15 minutes.
The whole thing in 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's pretty easy read. It's comic books. It's
yeah.
Not like modern comics where they tell each other how they feel for 17 panels in a row. It's not like that. It's like jump in and kick butt. Now, I don't want to get too excited. He has told me a few things about the future. I was going to come in here and say this was utter poop. That was my first response. But it's not true. There is some really nice art. He's not kidding about blood and guts, folks.
Oh, wow.
That's early on.
That's a cut in half person.
Well, homeboy here, this guy, what's his name again? Guts. Check that sword out, dude. That's his sword. It's a big piece of iron looks like about 7 feet long.
Yeah, that's the Dragon Slayer.
Wow.
I'm going to say this. I didn't like it, but it's not an anime, which is good. He told me that as you go along, T-shirt said that there's going to be an adventuring party that's going to form. So I'm a little interested. It didn't have as much of those googly eyes when someone would say something, crazy expression. In fact, I don't think they had any of it.
Emotes.
Some dark pieces to the story. But I think the writing could have been better. It's a little, I don't know, not great. But it's not like, modern SJW garbage, which I like that.
It's definitely not woke.
No, he's just a BA and he doesn't take any crap from anybody. Kind of Vampire Hunter D-ish. He just kind of says, this is how I roll. And anyway, so I'm going to, with hopes, I may borrow another one. But right now, I would only give it about a 3 or 4 out of 10. But that's because I'm very much a Western comics guy. Very much so. But I think there's potential here. So I think it was T-shirt and someone else told me. Who else? Who was it?
Yeah, it was recommended by a few people.
Bruce recommended this one.
Oh, he recommended Sunsworn. He recommended that as well.
And that too, yeah. I think
okay.
he mentioned it well. So, but I think T-shirt was the first. So I appreciate the recommendation. I enjoyed the read. It is worth the money because the art alone is very good. You're not buying some of the crappy art you see today, and but I can't say that I liked it.
Empty panels.
I don't know.
Oh, Legion of Myth. The hardcovers have too many empty panels. I found that. I don't know. I don't know.
Completely empty, or just no action. Because I can understand maybe a vista or some kind of broad art or something like that, but no action happening. Not a whole lot of that because you want stuff to be happening when you're going through your manga, I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of action for sure.
I did find
that one panel. Yeah.
One small spot. Here's the spot where it got a little anime for me. The little pixie dude, Puck.
Yeah.
He's like all mad. And I just, gosh, I hate that. But I'm not going to get all.
It's a trope.
It's a tiny little piece. It's not like that very much. Again, I'm not. I hate to. I'm pooping on this thing, and T-shirt's on there. He loves it, but
art is subjective. What you like is subjective. No big deal.
Right, correct. There's some beautiful, just really. I'll just say there's some badass art in here. Looks really good. So I might give another one a try if I can find it in the library.
Okay, here. Just images, no dialogue. I don't need talking in every panel, but 5 pages. Yeah, 5 pages. 5 pages.
Yeah, there's some of that. That's right.
There's some of that.
Yeah.
But I
can understand why you'd be frustrated with that. Yeah.
But to be fair, comics are a visual medium.
Mm-hmm.
I could see someone saying, I could see a cool story that could be told just with images. A really good artist could do that.
But the action, there's also, I mean, if there's no action and no talking, it's just.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
If there's nothing going on but scenery, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't see that this way.
I've seen some cool comics where it was fighting like Spider-Man, and it would just several panels of his, acrobatics and stuff, and which was really cool.
Yep.
But stuff is happening, not just nothing.
Yeah.
But that's a very thick book, though, so I can understand why the artist might want to.
It's a tiny book. It's not very big.
Oh, okay.
But it's thick. You're right. It is thick.
Yeah, so a few pages in there. I guess
$18.
If it's 5 pages in a Western size comic would really be annoying.
Yeah, 32. It was 32 pages. Yeah, this is definitely a thick little book.
Yeah, I mean it's a storytelling style or format. It's so just like you would see a movie where they pan out across something like that. They try to emulate that same thing in the books.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about too. Yeah.
Okay, shall we do our main topic? Because T-shirt, he did let us in there, then I screwed it up talking about Berserk.
I'm going to blame you when we don't get any views.
That's fair enough. I think that's a very fair.
Especially, I'm not going to blame the fact that I didn't advertise almost at all.
Who needs it? We're practically icons.
Well, at the very least, our diehard weekly watchers are here. Anyway, yes, death, tongue-in-cheek death and taxes. It's real. There's nothing to do with taxes in here, but since it's kind of tax season, maybe that's why Randy put that in there. So yes, PC death. There's not enough of it.
I agree. More death.
It's how you learn the game. Well, not specifically, but your death is usually the result of either a bad die roll or bad plan or whatever, and it's something that helps you to learn how to play better through your mistakes.
Yeah, it can. I actually personally hold the record for the number of character deaths in our group. So
I don't know how you could beat me.
I was going to say, T-shirt, you're in the presence of greatness. You two might. That's interesting. Joe holds the record for both PC deaths in our group.
All happened over one weekend.
I must have killed 30 of his characters in one weekend. No, 35?
I think we're triple digits.
I was killing them left and right. It was so much fun.
I mean, you know how it was when you're a teenager and don't have it. Well, probably could have found other things to do, but the whole
killing
thing
Joe
is
was fun.
role playing, and you get out of school and you meet up, and then you don't stop playing until Sunday night.
Right. We did that a lot.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh. So which system do you guys think, let's get mechanical first, which death rules do you like best?
Go ahead, T-shirt.
What do you think?
For what, character death? Yeah,
character death. What do you like? I like how you have to do this, and this to die, or when this happens, you got to make this roll, or whatever. Is there a mechanic or a system that you think death is? And by like it, I mean I think you can have any reason you want for why you like it.
Well, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but honestly, the more devastating the crits and fumbles are, the more fun it is. I especially am really, really fond of systems where you can achieve a one-hit kill on the first round with a well-timed crit or fumble. Because those are memorable. You will remember the time when your character's skull got caved in the very first round by the ogre because it was a lucky crit. It's like, normally, your fighter could have withstood this hit because he's only doing 2 die 6 plus 8 damage or something. But he got that lucky crit in there, and there was a ×4 multiplier, and you rolled up on the chart, and it was just like, okay, head crushed and pulped, splattered over a wide area. Your character crumples to the ground, in utter defeat, minus a head. When you see a crit like that come up, it's kind of like, yeah, you're going to remember this. It's like, okay.
3.x, any version, that's a pretty good way to do it. Pathfinder will do that for you. Get that crit, and you can drop them.
And by the same token, a good stupid fumble death will always be memorable too, because it's like, okay, you somehow managed to shoot the arrow, it ricocheted backward, hit you directly in the eye, punctured your brain, and you fell over off the rampart into the boiling oil below. That's that's
very little remains left to take to a priest.
Yeah,
it's in that fashion.
You're looking at maybe a true resurrection if they can fish you out fast enough. But
yes, so on this Shadow and Sun, there are worse things than death for a character, loss of a hand, eye, privileges, friends, family, etc. Killing off a character for the sake of killing a character is wrong on every level. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah,
for the sake of.
I have been wrong on every level then. Because I did kill you at least once of those 40 times just because I thought it was fun.
Yeah. But we were teenagers. So.
We were. That's not how
we did everything stupid then.
That's not how I roll generally, but that was
no.
It was just good times back in the day.
Right. But what we're really talking about is PC death as a result of normal adventuring activities.
Yeah, I agree with Shadow and Sun. You don't want to be killing people to kill people.
No.
However,
it's not an adversarial game.
And the DM can do that anytime he wants to.
Sure.
Yes.
Fun in that.
With absolutely no justification. Just your characters are all dead.
Rocks fall, everybody dies, game over.
You can do it.
You fall over dead.
Do it fairly anytime you want to.
Sure.
Oh, you ran into the dragon's cave. Sorry, dude. I warned you there was a dragon here. But CR, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. Run. You should have ran.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about appropriate level appropriate encounters.
Oh no! Oh gosh, let's not go there.
So I'm going to say something that might be controversial amongst. I mean, I agree with T-shirt, but when a PC dies, regardless of the how, it's not. I think that what Randy was really getting at is once you have crossed that threshold, what are the rules? And some rules are you hit 0 or less, you're dead. No rolls, no nothing, you're just dead, which is what I prefer. Other systems have like death saves and all those things that keep you alive. I mean, they're okay, but I prefer just, you're done.
Death saves are okay. Savage Worlds, which we played this past weekend, has a critical injury chart. And you have 3 wounds. When you get past 3 wounds, you roll on the chart. And you could die. In fact, depending, your chances are dying are actually quite high because you get a penalty for every wound you've taken.
Right.
But yeah, what about Rollmaster back in the day?
Oh yeah,
critical hit, and then you could have like your head is completely annihilated from someone slinging a hammer. A first level dwarf could completely bash your head in.
I use the Warhammer fantasy roleplay crits. Those are brutal.
They're fun.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It's been such a long time since I've looked at them. I don't remember, but I remember them being kind of gruesome. But that's the flavor of the game, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm with Joe. For a D&D style game, probably any game, I think when you're down to 0 health, 0 hit points, you should be dead, or at a bare minimum, you're dying. If you want to give them a chance to save them, that's fine. Max says, I hate it when DMs won't let the dice kill the characters. Oh, I don't believe in dying by bad luck. Well, why are you rolling dice at all then? We're going to get to that too. That's going to come up in a minute. We're going to talk about fudging dice.
For me, I like the negatives rule, because if it's a crit or a fumble or something like that, it doesn't kill you instantly. You could just be having a bad day with the dice and could go to 0 and collapse, and then you have the -10 and bleeding out and all that stuff, and it still puts a little bit of a emergency situation on the party, because now somebody has to get to you and kind of revive you, or at least stabilize you to make sure you're not dying. I don't like death saves. I think that is shit. Just straight up.
Fair enough.
But the thing is, the reason I think the reason a lot of these rules exist, there's a couple. One, people want a second chance, a third chance, and a fourth chance.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, death is boring. I don't do anything when I'm dead. So let's give you something to do while you're bleeding all of your vital juices out onto the grass. Some rolling. Maybe you won't die.
I've often told people, that there are a lot of safeguards and buffers in place to death, because number one, you have your hit points themselves, which are a barrier to death. You have all sorts of armor or magic spells or magic items. Those are a barrier to instant death or to death itself. And then, of course, if you are using a negative hit point system or death saves, that is another barrier to death. And then there's that other barrier to death that most people don't employ because they have all these other barriers to death, which is use your head.
Mm-hmm. Well, you made a comment about, and I can see how someone can say, well, going to 0 and dying is pretty harsh. We've done something, and I can't take credit for this. I feel like I've gotten it from a couple of buddies of mine, but we've been using it in our game Mudsword, where when you go to 0 or lower, I roll behind the screen, and I roll a D3, and you have that many rounds to get to that dude before he's dead. Because I found like a -10 threshold. If someone goes to -1, even if they're losing a hit point around, the players will super game that. They'll be like, T-shirt's good. He's only -2. He's got 8 more rounds. We can finish the fight. We don't have to rush to save him. And I find that weird, because if you have companions you've been adventuring with forever, and you don't, like, if me and my buddies are fighting and Joe goes down, I'm not going to be like, he's going to make his death save, or he's got -5 or 6 left to do. We're going to be like, holy crap. I mean, the truth is, we would probably say, get Joe and let's get out of here.
Mm-hmm. That arrow looks like a 1/4 inch away from his heart. It probably actually go in.
And to me, I don't like that approach. I like the D3 behind the screen, because the group's like, do we have 1 round or do we have 3 rounds? And can we chance it? And I like that decision to be a thing when someone goes down.
Sure. And how many people really can tell?
How
can you really tell?
How can you tell? If your buddy slumps over, you're like, holy shit, Joe might be dead.
He might be. And you've got an orc and 3 ogres in your grill.
Yeah.
How much of your attention are you going to give to Joe's slumped body and or to the orcs that are in front of you?
Yeah.
Because you can't study someone that's down for very long without, giving somebody an opening that they're going to stick a sword in.
I like I like this alternate. I think this is an optional rule. Max mentioned it. I like system shock saves from 2E. Take 50% or more hit point damage in one hit. You save or die. Third edition, or was it Pathfinder or 3.5? They implemented that rule too. If you take
massive damage
rules, yeah, that's not a bad way to go either.
I'll talk massive damage here in a sec, but I will say that some people have also come up with the idea for, and it's an old idea, well, the GM tracking all the characters' hit points and stuff like all the players' hit points. But I find that to be kind of irritating a little bit, because then the players tend to act a little bit weird about it, because it's kind of like, well, you know, since I don't know how much health I've got anyway. Mm-hmm. But I've seen DMs who just track all your hit points for you. You never track any hit points, and they just tell you, it's like, okay, well, that was a pretty deep wound and all that.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't like that so much.
There are some DMs that go all the way to say, you know your character's name.
Yeah. Oh, I played with a guy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm going to say this. I see a charm to that. I do. But you got to understand, I'm not much of a player. I see a charm to it because Randy gets even more control. To be fair, I'm a bit of a control nut. And so Joe's nodding in agreement. So what I'm saying is that could be kind of exciting, but then you got to describe everything. And if you don't describe the wound as being significant, and then Joe gets, I stab Joe in the back, my rogue as a DM, assassin comes up and stabs him in the back. Oh, you take a pretty serious wound. Joe be like, oh, he might react one way, but say, oh, you take a stab. The next time that happens, I say, you take a pretty good hit. Joe could interpret those phrases very differently. And so if he stays in the fight too long because of what I said and he dies, he's probably got a legitimate beef saying, Randy, you made it sound not that bad.
Yeah.
The goblin, he slapped me in the face and I'm dead. So, yeah.
Or then you got the cleric overhealing, because it's kind of like, well, he really wasn't hurt bad enough to need that kind of patching up, you know. He's like, I didn't need to throw my heal spell because you were only like 6 points down.
Right. Shadow and Sun, if you ever seen real combat by real professionals, you would know the odds of fumbles are infinitesimal. Probably. I won't disagree. Crits are almost guaranteed. Yeah. A dagger wound sucks. I can't imagine being stabbed down to the hilt anywhere in my body with a dagger.
Right. Which makes D&D combat is a little wonky from the jump, because all hits are bumps and bruises and scrapes until 0, and then it's an actual wound. And I'm not competitive. I don't know what Powder Puff Nerd is talking about.
I'm a free-flowing hippie. Come on, Powder Puff.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to... It's hard to wrap your head around the idea that hit points actually simulate all the stuff that's going on in combat, and then a combat round isn't just one swing.
Right. Well,
all those other things.
The dance.
Yeah.
The scrum, as Max from Legion of Myth will say, the scrum.
Yeah.
Scrum. Yeah. It's difficult to do that and not want to game the system a little bit.
Well, it is a game. And we're not simulating reality, because most people, if they watch... Well, yeah. If most people watch actual combat, they're not going to want any part of it.
Yeah.
Because it's intense.
Mm-hmm.
The little bit of it's been so long since I've had martial arts. When you practice together, punch each other in the nose.
Rondori, Kumite.
No, it's practice. So you're practicing and you're just sparring.
Yeah, sparring.
So when you're sparring, about 30 seconds in, you're like out of breath already. So it's the combats that we emulate. I like emulating rather than simulating. Emulating a feel and not simulating reality, because there's too many factors to consider to try to simulate.
Yeah.
So back to your hit points, Dan. Are you guys saying you don't think hit points should represent it's not your, like, if you have 70 hit points at 10th level, that's not your body.
Yeah.
You don't have the same amount of hit points as a Bulette physically. So you're okay with it being armor, dodging, luck,
Right.
Kind of
And that all adds on from experience.
Yeah. You get better at surviving because I've been watching Lord of the Rings. Strangely enough, the whole series. My mother's never seen it, so we're halfway to 1/3 of the way through Return of the King, and so I'm loving it. She's enjoying it too. But when I watch them fight, to Joe's point, I would be terrified. Those swords around, especially in a big scrum, there are swords and spears and arrows. They could be coming from any direction.
Yeah.
How terrifying, and even one of them gets in, it could be over.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's not like the fighter, grows physically thicker and harder and all this other stuff as they go up in progression. It's,
Yeah.
Well, you can imagine. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I was making sure I didn't mishear you guys. I didn't think you were saying like, oh, it shouldn't be that way. Yeah.
I can. Okay, so I can take a little bit of the opposite, just a touch.
Sure.
Through long hauls of tromping across the wilderness and surviving many harsh environments and all of that, your body does will probably get tougher. And carrying weapons and armor around all the time, you're going to develop some musculature.
Sure.
But not like 10 times like you get in the D&D game.
Yeah.
So you can expect a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, if that was the case, like what Navy SEALs would be like, as thick as battle ships and all this, and
Look, there's a 17th level fighter.
They're indeed tougher than average people.
Oh, no doubt.
Just
no doubt.
They probably can take more damage than Randy could. I'm sure they could.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, so what about campaign tone? That is like, when you're running a game, how hard should you even worry about how hard it should be to die? Is that a thing?
Say that again.
If you're running a campaign, this is a question. Oh wow, Shaka Zulu toughened the feet of his warriors' feet by making them get rid of shoes. That would do it.
I would do it.
How hard should it be to die in general? So we've kind of mentioned the way we like it, but like, does the campaign tone or style or game you're playing? Well, the game you're playing obviously has different rules, but should you try to, if you want a dark and gritty game where death is around the corner, then you probably want a rule system that lets death be around the corner.
Well, okay, and this is going into your massive damage rule that I like. I like D20 Modern. In my opinion, was pretty much almost a perfect game because you could do so much with it, and it wasn't so tied into the fantasy stuff. You could simulate all kinds of things. And the thing I used to run and write for was Darwin's World. And if you play D20 Modern, one of the rules they had a massive damage rule, which was if you took a single hit that was equal to or higher than your Constitution number, not your modifier, but I mean, like if you had an 18 con, if you took a hit that was 18 or better, you had to make a massive damage save, which means you had to roll against your con, and if you failed, you immediately dropped to 0 hit points and fell over. And I liked that rule because, for one thing, it made guns deadly. Whereas before, guns are kind of, so is D8 damage with a 5.56 millimeter band.
Right.
Now
most times you shoot somebody, it only grazes them.
Right. But if you get critted now, it's like, I had to make a massive damage save. Is this all of a sudden, things kind of come into perspective. It's like, getting into a fight, even if you're 10th level, you get a lucky hit, you could get dropped. I mean, all you got to do is roll a 1 on that dice.
Speaking of our Navy SEAL, if I got a 9mm in my hand, it's the great equalizer.
Yeah.
And he's not, no matter how tough he is.
Yeah.
The power dynamics have just changed in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting tweak to even the fantasy game.
Yeah, I like it. My players hate that idea. They absolutely do not agree with that 100%. They are of the opinion that by going up in levels, you have somehow earned the right to not die in one hit, that you shouldn't be fearful after you hit, 5th or 6th level and have a big chunk of hit points and all these other things, and that it's almost a privilege.
Like it. It's fun. It does. It makes it the game have a more fun edge than a more gritty edge, because you could be a high level fighter and just dive into a horde of orcs and with little concern for your welfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think it's what you want at the table. That's a good example.
Mm-hmm,
so I'm probably not going to play Dungeons and Dragons if I want a dark and gritty feel.
Not without some tweak.
Not without some major tweak. And that one rule he talked about, a saving throw could work. Max made a comment. I just showed this because I think Joe and I might want to do a topic on this. Maybe have Max on the show if he's willing. Abstract HP and AC is bad design, good for its time but not for current. I don't know about bad. I'd put that in quotation, but it is what D&D is, and that's the construct on which we play. I would say that most of the time, if I'm going to play D&D, I want to do the hit points that way. I want to keep it 10th level fighter. I want him to feel like he can step into a room with 20 kobolds and come out without a scratch. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and Shadow and Sun has a good point here too with his hit point location system. That is also something that is used in Chaosium whenever they did RuneQuest and when they do Call of Cthulhu. Each body location has like basically a division of hit points in it, and when you take that much hit points, like quarter damage or whatever like that, that limb or whatever is out of commission. But also, RuneQuest is not a level-based system, so when you start the game, you're just as vulnerable as if you have been playing like 100 sessions, because you still pretty much only have the same amount of hit points throughout the entire game, and you're still just as vulnerable to getting killed. It's just now you have a greater percentage to hit and kill things and all this other stuff. You have more skills.
Have you found hit location games, though, while they're interesting, they tend to kind of slow the game down, don't they?
A lot of people say they slow the game down. It's an extra dice roll, but honestly, I like it better just because I can get more descriptive with the wound. It's like, okay, yeah, you took 8 points to the leg. I mean, now in D&D that doesn't really mean jack because you have like 56 consolidated hit points. But in RuneQuest, if you only had 10 hit points to begin with, and you took 8 hit points to the leg, you're looking for your leg because it fell somewhere behind you.
Oh, Max brought out something relevant and something I wanted to show. Just got this in the mail. I finally own Palladium Fantasy Role. I'm going to give that game a try. So Palladium concept of hit the main body unless you make a called shot. Trained to shoot center mass. Yeah, I think that's a standard thing, right? For those that have trained with guns, shoot center mass.
Well, your heart and your lungs are right there.
Yep.
So if you hit one or both of them, which is possible, then that's what you want. So, and just like with a sword, you can disable somebody by hitting them in the arm or leg, but it's harder. So you're gonna stab toward the middle.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with Max on that. Stuff that people complain about slowing the game down, you find exciting in the anticipation roll. That's true. And
you can always roll the 2 die together.
Mm-hmm.
The hit and the location at the same time.
Okay. Cool.
So, and the other thing about that slowing the game down, it's only a huge issue now that we have a very busy adult life. That we have all of this slow the game down. This slows the game down talk. I know when we first started playing 3rd edition, that was some discussion as well because it was new and took some time to learn it. But once we got used to the rules and whatnot, until the glut of source material became an issue, time wasn't an issue.
Well, and to be fair, when we were playing Heavy Pathfinder, we were allowing everything that was official into our game, and I wouldn't say it slowed it down. I think 3rd edition moves at a certain pace that is not faster than previous editions. Nope. It is slower. I think it's I can't say from experience, but from people I've talked to that have played 4th edition, it was even slower. 5th edition is probably inarguably faster.
Oh, sure.
First and second And original is inarguably faster unless you're using weapon speed. And even then, I don't think if you use all the rules, I don't think it can be slower than the third edition game. But but for me, early on, I didn't mind because it was such a new thing. We were really using our minis. We were moving things and measuring distances. And I thought it was kind of cool. It was adding a chessboard piece that we had never worried about before. But after a while, it became tedious.
Yeah, it can.
For me.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, this is a hot take, but if you're worried about slowing the game down, take all the combat out. I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
I've heard people say that, though. I have heard people say that.
Fair enough.
Combat just brings a game to a grinding halt.
Because it does.
But
it really does.
Well, because you're focusing on a minute of time in real time for the world that you're living, the fake world that you're playing in. But that's what you do. That's all these games focus on: combat or overcoming challenges, having confrontations. And confrontations, you zero in on a specific point in time and you play that out. And that's the gameplay. Everything else leads to it. It's not, well, but that's personal preference too. I know there's a lot of people who prefer it the other way.
But to be fair, I think that's a good criticism. And when I say that, it's my own bias.
But it's also a function of the times we're playing in.
Fair enough. Joe is definitely more of a gamist than I am, or a gamer. I hate to say this, guys, but I like the narrative side of the game. I do. Mm-hmm. I like the RP.
Oh, yeah.
And I get into when I'm playing, and Joe's seen it, I can do the talky talk, dude.
Same.
I'm down with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do like the game. But as a GM, I think sometimes when I'm like the other night, we'll talk if we get to it tonight on the next segment about talking about the games we played. I got tired at the end of the night. I didn't like how I ended the game again. I can't figure out why. I just I peter out and I got to figure out something. So, but that's a different thing. So
caffeine.
Yeah, I may need more caffeine.
Speed.
Oh yes. What's the drug that makes you really? Cocaine doesn't make you hyper, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, good. I should take some coke. That's a good idea.
What's they give the ADHD folks?
Ritalin.
Oh, well, that calms them down though, right?
Well,
if you're ADHD,
right? Yes. But if you're not, you get the reverse effect.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good plan.
Yeah. I will say this. I actually do like the combats and stuff like that. However,
I like them too.
Recently, one of the reasons I quit the last 5th edition game I was in, we had ended up with 8 people sitting at the table. We're in a combat with multiple creatures, and of course the GM has individual initiatives for everything. So I'm looking at this big old giant rack of clothespins that I'm having to wait for my turn for. You know, PC and NPC alike and monster. And some guys have got their moves down. They want to know what they want to do and they want to get it done quickly. Or they're taking extra long because they're like, okay, well, I've got this extra action. Okay, well, I've got this extra action. Okay, well, I got this extra action. Or the other guy's like, you got the mage who's like, taking 4 minutes to figure out, what the hell he's gonna do, and I'm like, you got one spell, cast it.
You're gonna cast. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me look this in the book. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's a no. Yeah.
That is such a no. If you don't know your character well enough to have a spell that you can cast right away, 1, you might be tired, and 2, you might not know how to play very well. You might want to just pick something and do it.
Dude, the best comment of the night. Love the balance. Randy is an amazing at jamming. Randy does that get me a Benny? Yes, it gives you 3. Well done, Powderpuff.
Wow. That is some primo nose,
inserted.
Yeah.
Brown.
It's all the way to the base.
There's a reason I like her to play. So it's
primo brown nosing. Yes.
Yeah. Digging some corn out of her nostrils later, but
dude, dig this. What do you think of this? Look at Max's comment. I have tried this, and my players get mad at me. No,
yeah,
10 seconds to make your decision, or else you skip this round. New players are exempt. I've tried that. That just feels.
Right.
You will have pissed off players every time.
Yeah.
Players need to find the right DM. The DM needs to find the right players. And I think we, in our group, we know which DMs don't care, because there are some that don't, and we know the ones that do. And we all have our own play styles, and we gel with different groups at different times.
Yep.
And so it's a matter of the right DM and the right players. And you might have to curate that a little bit. And you might have to learn the game system well enough so that you can make good decisions quickly, or just make decisions quickly and figure out if it was good later.
And to be fair, to give Max a nod on that, he may have always been kind of a hard ass. And so he's like, 10 seconds, you got it. And if you sit down for the first time with Max and he says that, you really can't get mad.
No.
This is how I'm rolling.
I feel Max would probably tell you. He wouldn't just spring it on you.
Yeah.
A good DM does that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And for me, I've always been super lenient guy. And so it's, even I tell like young teachers, I teach as a full-time thing. And I say, look, it's much easier to be super strict initially and to ease off than to reverse that. So if you're super easygoing DM and then you're like, 4 seconds, next, Joe. No, skip your turn. Next. Then you get a little bit of crap.
I, as a player, and I didn't used to do this, but I have grown to, if I can't figure something out, I can't figure anything out, I'm looking at the wall or something. And so that I don't take up anybody else's time.
And I appreciate that.
I don't have to do stuff. I don't have to do something.
No, you don't have to.
The like the 5th edition game I was at that I quit, this stuff got so bad to the point where one of the other players at the table brought a sand timer with them. and every time this one person would start to do their turn, he would pull that sand timer out and slam it on the table and look at him like, this is how much time you have to make your decision.
We've done that.
Max says, I get in so many arguments about how much of a jerk I am from people who've never played in my game, never from people who do play. Max, I'd love to play in your game, dude. I have no doubt you're good. I think it's just, like you said, you don't want people to play forever. And you shouldn't. If you're going to play the game, unless you're brand new at it, if I'm playing Earthdawn with Max for the first time, I would hope he'd cut me a slack on the first round. After the first round, Randy, get your crap together, dude.
Right.
So it's okay. Yeah. Nobody's hating anybody here. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. If the people are brand new, maybe it's only like their 3rd or 4th time to play. It's kind of okay. Maybe you still do, but we're talking experienced guys who knew the rules backward and forward and all that. In fact, that's why they were taking so long, because they were so desperate.
It's a bit of a trap.
Yeah, they were so desperate to not let their character get hurt by anything that it almost paralyzed them in game.
That's why I like complex character creation and maybe leveling or experience spending or whatever that part of the game is. That can be as complex as you want, but play at the table should be direct and straightforward and very little exceptions that you can hang all of your abilities on. That's one of the things with 13th Age. We just had a long series that nobody liked.
I loved it. I had a good time.
One of the things about many of the powers they have in that game is they're very situational, and it's I don't really care for that. But play at the table should be straightforward and direct. That way, it would alleviate some of this, and you can still have a complicated character to maybe put together. But once you sit down and play, it shouldn't be that complicated.
Yep.
Maybe just a little Martinson. You weren't too bad, bud. Yeah, I think, gosh, I think about, we've had this discussion before, Joe, and I know T-Shirt plays Pathfinder. We played this for years. We played the 3.5 for years, and I still have all my books. I'm not getting rid of it. I see a time, maybe in the near future, where I'm going to play it again. I do. I've been kind of feeling like I want to test the waters of the 3rd edition engine again. But if I got 4 or 5, I could handpick 4 or 5 players in our we have a large group T-Shirt. He's like, we got 20-ish people that we could.
Whoa.
We could at any point grab 5 of them easily and play. I could cherry pick a handful of them, and we could play a Pathfinder game that would run smooth, wouldn't it, Joe?
Sure.
That would be
Especially,
that.
there would be a couple of tweaks we could make. One, I would love to make to Pathfinder, the whole 3X Pathfinder continuum.
Yeah.
To reinstate the racial restrictions and stat restrictions, so that halflings. Without magic, a halfling can't get anything above a 9 strength because
it is kind of ridiculous.
I mean, maybe 12, but really a 20? No.
Gets a 12 if he hits the gym 4 times a week.
Well, and don't forget too, there's more than one system out there.
Yeah.
You know, not to. I'm not shilling for anybody, but here recently I picked up a whole bunch of Shadow of the Demon Lord. I've been looking through it. I really like it. I love the character creation system.
Which one is that again?
Shadow of the Demon Lord.
Oh yes. It
gets a lot of praise, so I'd be interested to know who's the guy that made that. He
Robert J. Schwalb, one of the guys behind 3.0, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
familiar.
Didn't Bruce? Hey, Bruce is here, and Darth Theix here.
Bruce. Hey, Bruce
is here.
That's your new name, Bruce.
And Shadow of the Demon Lord, didn't they? What was that one defecation?
Something. Hateful defecation.
I think you pointed that out. Isn't some of their stuff pretty gruesome? Like, isn't it pretty gruesome?
It's yes and no. Okay. I mean, it kind of depends, but I really like their lore. I like how they handle everything. Like their elves, their elves are freaky, man. They're not like your let's prance through the forest and make love to animals. They are crazy. I mean, it's like they stop growing once they hit their age, which could be like in their 70s, and they live for hundreds and thousands of years. But the thing is, they don't all appear the same. Like some of them appear to be 2-dimensional from one side. I mean, and this is stuff you can roll up on your character. Some of them have horns. Some of them have tails. Some of them have glowing. Yes, these are all elves.
They're kind of tiefling-like in that.
They are, and they are absolutely immoral, and they don't give a shit what anybody thinks about it.
They're very fey.
They're extremely fey. They're more like the fey than they are than like the standard elves of Tolkien.
Tolkien's elves were more angelic than fey.
Yeah, they were nice guys.
Baron Girox said, even spiked tendrils and forced intrusion. Was that a joke spell or is that a real spell?
I don't know that one.
Probably a joke.
I don't want to know that one.
I do not want to know that spell at all.
I don't know that one. There is one of them that will make your manhood rot and fall off. Yeah.
I stopped that game a couple of times. Everybody give it glowing reviews.
Yeah. But it's like their orcs are death machines, but that's what they were designed to be. All the races have a character to them that makes them unlike a lot of the other races. I mean, and this is to go into a whole nother discussion here, but as all the systems have released more and more races, the races have become more and more homogenized to the point where they literally are just skin suits for people to put on. And that's one of the nice things I like about Demon Lord is even when you're generating a character, there's so much flavor built into the character generation system for each race that even if you knew very little about the racial background of the race, just building the character could tell you a lot of stuff about how that race is supposed to be played in particular, or at least how your character as that race is supposed to be played.
Does Shadow of the Demon Lord is the game set up to where, or is it just one way to play it? I thought I'd read where you can play like a 10-session campaign or 11-session campaign. It's kind of set up to be that. Is it set up to be that way all the time, or just if you want to run a short campaign from? Because they cap out at 10th level, right?
Yeah, they cap out at 10th level. And at 4th level, usually your race gets some kind of new Benny.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of nice too. I like that because it's something to look forward to also as a race. But I don't know a lot about the system yet to be able to discuss it. Other than just my cursory readings of it, I really need to get into it more and chew it and really enjoy it. But I love what I've seen so far. I love the character creation system so much that I'm actually going to work on adapting it to OGL just to enhance the flavor of the way characters are made and built, because it's so well done. And I think it kind of helps keep the characters from being too cookie cutter.
Hey guys, I want to pause here. Look what Bruce said.
Mm-hmm.
Powder Puff Nerd, I'm doing really good today. Got hitched about 10 this morning with the judge. Went out grocery shopping with the new wife. She's playing Candy Crush. Congratulations, Bruce.
Congratulations, Bruce.
Good man.
They're pretty good. I got one of those. I like.
Yes.
I
have one.
She's all right.
I don't have one of those.
Get you one, dude. They're all right. They're pretty good.
Are they? I know they smell nice.
They're good. They're good for you.
Yes, they are good for you. They make you better. But
get
you a good one. Don't just take any one off the shelf. Take you
like brand cereal is good for you.
Get it? Yeah. Well, get you one that's good for you.
As long as she doesn't throw out all my role playing games and stuff.
No. Well, that's a bad one. That is not good for you.
Mine came with a first edition DM's guide.
Yes.
First printing, I think.
Wow.
Joe's was pretty special. Mine didn't come with any role playing experience, but she dove in.
Nice.
First, baby, she's into it. So she said, "Play whatever you got." Now she calls every game Dungeons and Dragons, whatever we play, but that's okay. Look at that. Max found him an exotic one. See, they're all over the place.
Was she from Thailand or something?
I think she's Japanese.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's correct.
What is correct?
Exotic. I mean, it's poo-pooed on. You're not supposed to say that. So of course Max said it.
That's a poo-poo word?
Oh, for some dumb reason.
Oh my God. I like exotic food.
Right.
Food, so there you go. But,
no, that's cultural appropriation if you eat another culture's food.
Well, I appropriate a lot, especially Indian.
You have cultural indigestion too, perhaps.
No, baby, I love spicy Indian food.
Now the funny thing is, we really haven't discussed the fudging part so much, though.
We're getting there. So one question before we leave the death, because fudging is coming up and it's connected to death. What about? And I'm sure we're going to be in agreement here, but I won't say positive. Save or die spells, save or suck spells or powers, where you just die. But I guess I'm sure T-shirt's going to be good with it because it seems cool if someone in the first round gets critted and is dead. So power. So here's Finger of Death. Make your save or suck it, homeboy. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I like save or suck and save or die spells. I don't like them when they're used on my character.
Who does?
Nobody does. But as a player, yeah, I definitely love it because whenever I play casters, I definitely love the save or suck spells. It's and it's kind of funny too because it's like you see how the spells have gotten nerfed over the years. I have a friend who has joined us when we play Castles and Crusades, and since Castles and Crusades uses kind of the old school rules and things, not all of them. I mean, it's got some modifications, but it does use like the old school spells, including the haste, which ages the person who got haste cast on them.
Yep, cool.
And our newest player is a 5th edition guy, so he's never seen this before.
Oh, no.
But the first time we played, and our caster threw sleep on enemies, and he just watched them all fall down. He was like, "Oh my God, that spell's powerful! What did you do? It's a sleep spell. But a sleep spell doesn't do that in 5th edition." I'm like, "Yeah, you don't get a save in this one."
And it did drop so many people.
Sleep spell. Don't leave home without it.
Mm-hmm.
If you really wanted to be a jerk, I don't know how long it would take for your DM to kick you into gear, but you could walk into villages and just say, "Bloof, bloof, bloof, bloof."
Yep.
Oh, but it's funny.
And take everything.
You mentioned that about not being against you. I know we were playing around with Mud Sword. We're using some of the rules cyclopedia spells, and I cast. They faced their wizard, one of their first big adventures, and they're like, "Get him before he casts sleeps."
That's the tactic.
They did not, and he took them out, except for one guy, and luckily that was able to save the group. But Joe,
the only reason my character didn't get it is because he was outside of the room.
Correct, but I'm saying that could, and I think Patrick's elf we gave him a save because he was an elf.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, this is something. This bothered me back in 3rd edition because I remember people would say this on the boards. You would hear this in Dragon Magazine. Do you know the spell Mordenkainen's Disjunction?
Yeah.
Okay, so what does that do? That takes all your magic items, at least in 3.0 it did, and it turns all your magic items to their original components right in front of you. No saving throw. So you could, as a DM, use that on a high-level party, and that just changes the situation real quick. And or maybe you did get saving throws. I think you might have. But, I mean, if you fail it, it sucks. And I had many people say on the board, they go, well, you DM shouldn't use that spell. And I'm like,
why?
What? You can use it. Why couldn't I? You'll ruin all our magic items. Yeah, sucks to be you. I don't know what to tell you.
So,
now,
yeah, you're not supposed to turn the corner and there's a 20th level wizard in your face.
Right. But if you're going to fight one, it's possible.
It's possible, and you should be ready.
And he might disintegrate you.
No, what you do is you have a sniper from 10 miles away. You know, 20th level wizard, you don't, unless you're really prepared, you don't throw down with the 20th level wizard unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, you're asking for trouble if you just turn the corner and fight him.
Oh, right. Okay. I have the Castles and Crusades version of that pulled up, but I think it's about the same as the old one. Level 9 wizard, 50-foot range, saving throw, charisma objects.
Oh.
This powerful spell rips asunder all magical effects. The spell's area of effect is 25 by 25 feet. Oh, that is, spells and spell-like effects are separated into their individual components, ending the effect as a dispel magic spell does. And permanent magic items must make successful con saves or be turned into normal items. Even artifacts are subject to disjunction, though there is only a 1% chance per caster level of actually affecting such powerful items. If an artifact is destroyed by the spell, the caster must succeed at a charisma save or permanently lose all spell casting capabilities. The abilities cannot be recovered by mortal magic, nor even by a wish. Destroying artifacts is a dangerous business and is 95% likely to attract the attention of some powerful being who has interest in or connection with this device.
Do not disjunct that invulnerable coat of arms, fool.
When casting the spell at an anti-magic field, the caster has a 1% chance per caster level of destroying it. If the anti-magic field survives the disjunction, the items within it are unaffected by the spell. So, wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a super powerful spell.
And that's one of those, like, and I had at a high level game, I had a disjunction trap. But to be fair, the players were not supposed to be, it was in this Lord's Keep. It was his treasure vault, and he had I had it emanate from an iron golem. And they're like, all our crap's disjuncted and we're now fighting an iron golem. And I said, yes.
Run.
Roll initiative.
Run.
So, yeah, that was pretty sweet. But they survived. They got their stuff back. They did some things, and it was cool. But they felt a lot of saves, and they lost a lot of magic items. But, yeah, I agree. It's not one of those. Here's Max said, that's a spell you make rare, hard to get, easy to get while you snicker. I think it's one of those things where I think you telegraph it, or if I told them, this is not like they're going in, like, you sure you want to go in this vault with this guy that's trying to help you out? It was literally a guy that was helping them, and they wanted to
then they
down. And I was
perhaps
like,
I don't know if I don't think I was
you were
part
of it. Joe, I think you were still in Maryland.
Ah.
But I was just like, okay, dudes, we can do this. Good luck.
And that's a casting time 1 too, so that's like you can get that off in 1 round. Ooh.
Yeah, you lost your crap. Congratulations. Now let's fight.
That would be a great bargaining chip, though.
Oh,
so we can do this the hard way or the easy way. The easy way is you leave, or perhaps give me all of your stuff, or the nearest virgin. Yeah. The hard way is I destroy all your magic items. Which do you pick?
Well, I believe the way it worked in 3rd, but I don't have it in front of me, is it would disjunct, it would separate, it would take your magic item and it would break it up into its component parts. So you'd have your masterwork sword, and then you'd have all the little items and components that would make it magical that was used to create it would just be stacked right there over it. So in theory, if you could then grab that crap, you could reforge it, but you're looking at lots of money and time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it is a 9th level spell, so it's supposed to be like,
I agree. But my point was, even disintegrate, what people would cry about that. And I'm like, look,
oh yeah,
if you're going to use it, The bad guys are going to use it. That's how it works.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
What about dragon breath?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, in 3rd edition, you didn't want a dragon. As soon as you knew you were facing a dragon, you wanted it you were going to either run, or you're going to do your best to get it before it breathes. Because bad news.
Well, they batted way outside their weight class. They were purposefully, if you care about such things, they were under CR'd significantly. Monty Cook said they did that on purpose. So a dragon that they knew was more like a challenge for 8th level characters, they put a 6 on its CR because they wanted the dragons to be terrifying, and they were.
So. That being a 9th level spell, that means your wizard is not going to see it until their 17th level. Right. But the thing that would stop most parties from having that spell is the fact that, okay, you cast this and you just destroyed all the treasure.
Right. You beat the Lich and you get nothing.
Yeah. Right. Enjoy.
Enjoy. Yeah. So, okay, so now this brings us to the topic. We meant to get to the second part, fudging dice rolls. So, big general question. Do you or do you not? Because this is connected to death, of course. TPKs and crap like that, and too much, and a critical on the first strike. And do you fudge?
Only when I'm playing, not when I'm DMing.
Well, I know that, you stinking cheater. So I know that for sure.
No, absolutely not. No in fact, I roll right out in the front so that everybody can see what my dice rolls are. It's more honest. And it's funny because it's like I didn't fudge my dice rolls, but this actually happened this last Thursday. I have a DCC character I built. He was a gong farmer, which, as you know, those are the guys who literally they scrape up and take away shit for a living from outhouses and sewers and everything else. So, DCC 1st level or 0 level gong farmer. 4 hit points. Only equipment is a bag of night soil and a trowel. Party's walking down the road. Everyone else in the party is 2nd level. My character is 0.
Oh no.
Yeah. So this bandit has just absolutely just torn this guy almost in half in the road, and then he stops. He looks at us real surly, and he's kind of like, what's in the wagon and all this kind of stuff. And one of the other party members just kind of points over at the gong farmer. My gong farmer says, "Well, the really valuable stuff is in his bag, not the wagon." So, he's just being a jerk. So, Bandit comes over to my gong farmer and says, "I want what's in the bag." And I'm like, "You really want it? Okay." So I told him, "Okay, I'm gonna roll to hit this guy in the face with this bag of dung." I rolled a natural crit. And it was right out there in front of God and everybody.
Nice.
We went to the critical hit charts for blunt weapons, and then the result was face shattered, cheek and jaw crushed, roll to remain conscious. So this guy's got a broken face. He rolls the dice out in front of everybody else. Natural 1.
Ooh, good night, sweet prince.
Yeah, I finished him off with the trowel.
That's awesome.
We just
Death by dung.
Don't mess with the gong farmer. He has lots of rage built up from cleaning crap all day.
Oh.
And again, that's another example of the crit and the fumble. People are going to remember that.
Yeah. Well, look, here's Powder Puff says, honestly, when it fits the gameplay and for the benefit of the party, I may. I've been kind of a roller coaster in my career on that. Currently, Joe knows I roll in the open. I don't roll behind the screen. I use a screen if I have to do a secret roll. I did a little bit of this past week, but I'm not really big into the secret crap. Just for one scene, which I kind of screwed up anyway. But I like to roll in the open. I like to let the dice fall where they may. We'll talk about that experience. We had an event that happened first second to Joe's character, and it was like, man, this kind of jacks things up. But you know what? And Joe helped me figure out a reason for it. It made sense. We went on and it happened. And I think it's just better off to see what happens. And I used to be the guy that I tended to always fudge in the favor of the players, but I've also been the guy that would be like, you know what? This fight with this Ogre King was supposed to be really tough. And they just critical him 3 times in a row. I'm going to double his hit points. I've done that before. I don't do that anymore. Things just happen. If what's supposed to be a major fight turns out to be a cakewalk, oh well. We'll get them next time.
Yeah, you have an unlimited number of monsters.
Yeah.
Right. The possibility for death for your character creates a tension.
Yep.
And if you're always deflating that tension, then you can still have a good time at the table, I suppose. But it's just you're going to win. So it's I think it lessens the game play a little bit, just a little bit.
And it actually robs your player of agency.
A bit. Because none of your choices ultimately matter.
Yeah.
Don't worry, my GM will get my fat out of the fire this time. And even if the players don't really know, seems like you can tell. You play 6, 8, 10, 12 sessions, especially a game that's swingy like Savage Worlds or a game like Pathfinder where somebody's critting, and when crits come up in Pathfinder or 3X, it hurts. It's ouch time for somebody. And and so it's like, especially if you're fighting a giant and I roll a crit and I only do 20 damage, they know I'm lying. That's a lie because I'm doing a boatload of damage. And I think it does. It robs the game of the game part.
I've run into 2 cases of GMs who fudged way too much, and it got to the point where it was noticeable. We had a GM who was running RuneQuest for us, and for some reason that GM thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world if every time he rolled a hit location it was a 7, which you can guess where the 7 is. But he thought it was just really funny to watch your characters getting hit in the crotch all the time.
Yep.
And after about the 5th or 6th time of it happening, I'm kind of like, wow.
And this is not fun, dude.
Yeah, it's like okay, so obviously I didn't need to wear a helmet or any of this other crap. I could have just worn a cod piece that was like the size of some battleship armor, and I would have been okay.
Right.
That's so weird.
And on the other end, against me, you shouldn't try to save your big bads because really, the players, they're going to lose. Not lose.
That's what a cod piece is for.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another GM has a really bad track record. He is really bad about figuring out what a player can do and can't do. And it's just from inexperience, from not knowing the rules that well. And so when he throws encounters at us, it either becomes blow through, or it becomes, or he overcompensates for it to the point where it becomes death on a stick, just immediately. And the problem is every time it becomes a death stick, he bails our bacon out of the fire. Either the enemy starts taking lots more damage all of a sudden, or an NPC shows up to save us, or this, that, and the other. And I mean, and it got to the point where it was so ridiculous that I honestly stopped caring about combat in that game, because it was kind of like, I know that something is going to come save us. He's not really going to let us die or anything like that. It's just pointless. Why we're doing this combat, I don't know, because clearly it doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, when you read novels and you watch movies or TV shows, comic books, having some external force come in and saving the day, or at least that particular scene or panel or whatever, that could work. The problem with doing it at the table, though, is you pretty much just deflate everything that the players have done up to that point. Well, if you were just going to save us, why didn't you just play tiddlywinks and say, don't even have to use dice? Yeah. You fight. You can narrate the whole thing. You fight for a while. They get the upper hand, and then Zorro comes and saves your bacon.
Yeah, we could have figured out this entire combat with like paper rock scissors.
Yep. Max says, "Oh, I'll fudge the occasional hit points. If a combat is meant to be meaningful in Earthdawn horror, I won't allow that fight to be cheapened. Outside of that, the dice rule. So a major fight he would fudge if a player makes a great roll against his super powerful Earthdawn horror guy, he's going to fudge it a little to make, because it's supposed to be memorable. And I think I've heard Max saying this on podcast. He's not fudging and letting the monster win. The monster is going to go down. He's going to let it get away, I guess. But I understand that approach. I still say just let it happen. I mean, I get the feeling Max is talking about. I hate when a cool big fight turns out to be, here we are, we're going against the Sararak. We finally got to the end of the Tumor Horrors. Now it's the Sararak, and Joe goes, I go Ethereal and cast Power Word Kill. Dead.
Bye.
So it's like, oh.
Should have brought more.
Yeah, I mean, now granted, I wouldn't do that because I know Joe knows that. Now I would change the win conditions there, or the easy win button. But back in the early days, if Joe just tried that because he was kind of a lunatic wizard and did it, I'd be like, I mean, right now I'd be thinking, oh, well, shit happens. Good job. You conquered Tim Horrors. Represent. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Right. If you even managed to get to a Sararak, that alone was worth it.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because you probably didn't. You're probably dead 47 times.
Yeah.
Right. And, there is something to be said where when people do these things, they tend to have some predetermined outcome or feel that they want, that is part of the story that they have in their head about the game. Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. So where I prefer the story to be revealed through play and dice and decisions, not necessarily, well, it needs to be this particular way because I want it to.
What about
that's just, but it's different play styles. It's a play style thing.
I do too, and I agree with Cal. There's more monsters, but what about this? And this is kind of along what Max does. What if I do the opposite? I'm like, I want this to be a really cool fight, so I want to make this monster totally awesome, right? And I'm thinking Joe can do this, so he'll have a counter for this. Joe always casts Disintegrate, so this monster's going to have some way around that. And so always does trip attack. So and I'm not doing it just to screw them, but I want them to have to think outside of the box, not do their standard operating procedure. And then I build this monster, and he ends up being ridiculous, And what if I go the other way? Max makes no apologies. I don't find that shocking.
Good.
And that's okay, Max. I think you're fine to do that. I just wouldn't. I don't think I would. What if you go the other way? And I'm gonna take the pedal off the metal. It might be more difficult to pull that off. Because why all of a sudden is my trip attacks working when it wasn't working before? Right.
Oh, instead of fudging in favor of players.
Grindel's too awesome. He's going to kick the crap out of these 14th level characters. Let me dial him back a peg. Maybe he doesn't have 700 hit points in Pathfinder. He has 400. I guess that would be something you could do and the players wouldn't notice, but I wouldn't want to make that a habit.
No.
Well, I mean, unless you're just throwing really random encounters at people. I just flipped, page 25 of the Bestiary 3, and look, it's a kaiju. Here we go. Roll initiative.
Right. Yeah, I like random, but that's a tad sight out there.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, your players are going to have some notion of what it is they're about to face. It's kind of like, Cthulhu doesn't sneak up on people very well.
There are some environmental effects of Cthulhu being near you.
Yeah.
Or within a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, you would know. You may not know that's Cthulhu, but you would know we don't want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm pretty sure we don't want to go to that town. Why? Well, because I could see a kaiju stomping through it right now. Yeah. Maybe we wait until afterward.
Behind a tree or anything.
Yeah. Maybe we avoid this.
If Cthulhu is manifested, and somehow you can't tell because the sky's not dark and there's not like tornadoes and lightning bolts all over the place. More than likely, within a mile of where he's at, or maybe 2, everybody is now completely insane.
Yeah. It's not like the party is going to like randomly the wandering monster chart does not include the Tarask on it for a reason,
Well, there's only one, so
yeah.
So Legion says I won't dial a monster back, but I always give the PCs an out. Not all monsters fight to the death. Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
No, they shouldn't.
Yeah, he and Dog were on a live stream. I had up a minute ago. I want to give him a little shout out. He and Badger live stream yesterday, so try to check that out. I don't know what Badger is, but I'm sure it's pretty good.
I haven't heard of this one.
And Shadow and Sun says, "Hey Legion, check out Project Child Save on YouTube. You'll know what I mean by professional." Oh, that's a side comment. Okay. Yeah. Oh, Martinson says, "Last scion of Tiamat." Am I right, Randy? Yeah. That's something that I developed in a game I was playing with. It was the last child of Tiamat that existed on the planet. It was kind of apocalyptic setting, and they fought it. And I had prepared this dragon for the ultimate of doom, and it was crazy powerful. I mean, the players really couldn't hurt it unless I just rolled a 1. And so they cast a spell, and the first saving throw I made, I rolled a 1. So it dies in the very first. I'm like, this thing would have. But to be fair, had that not happened, I would probably have killed the whole party. So, I mean, I don't know. It was crazy. We were playing super high in 3.5. I mean, we were.
And at that point, it's one way or the other.
Yeah, it's a rocket tag. So, yeah. Okay. What about this? TPKs.
I like them. Let's do that more.
Okay. So you're playing a campaign. Everybody's loving it. Castles and Crusades. T-shirts running us through a Castles and Crusades game was totally badass. Joe's playing an 18th level wizard. Or no, 7th, 8th level wizard. But it's just getting good, right? And all of a sudden, he brings in something. Randy rolls a stinky roll, fails. He's dead. Joe with stinky roll, fails. He's dead. T-shirt rolls critical on the fighter. He's dead. Just let it go, even though we're all having fun with those characters. Yep.
Well, okay, that this actually happened. I was running D20 Modern. I was running Darwin's World. We got 6 players at the table, and I'm the GM, so I'm the 7th. All 6 of them are 9th or 10th level, and this has been a consistent game. Mm-hmm. So they're all experienced. They all have good gear. They're and they're going after a really big pack of it's a small tribe of individuals who are destroying things as they go. And I described it to them. I said, okay, you see them. They had binoculars and everything broken out. I said, you've seen them. They're in their camp. It's night. Probably about half of them are sleeping. But you could see at least 30 of them out on watch or doing various things in the camp, and the rest are sleeping. There's probably about 60, 65 individuals in total. And I thought, certainly they will not go head on and try to attack this camp. They'll try to pick them off or lure some out or do something smart. No, they charged in there. I broke up the levels. There were various levels. There's 4th levels, 6th levels, and 9th levels. And not very many 9th levels, but still.
You don't need many 9th levels.
No, you don't need many 9th levels. And the thing is like, the law of averages came into play. Crits happen, fumbles happen, people missed, people hit. Players PCs started dying. And they were dying like brutally because, the initial, they could survive the initial waves, but as more of them started waking up and getting involved in the melee, it was kind of like, there's just no way that you guys could survive this. There's 6 of you. There are 60 plus members of this war party of varying levels. They will kill you. But they insisted on fighting and fighting and fighting. So we pretty much we had a TPK. 2 members of that whole group survived and got away because basically they ran and turned tail early on in the fight while everyone else was getting cut down. Every player at that table was pissed off at me for that encounter.
What?
Yeah, they were all pissed off at me for it. They thought it was unfair, etc. And the game broke up. That game broke up after that.
That's not unfair. Now, Shadow and Sun makes a comment here. I prefer to capture the party and imprison them to a TPK. I've had some players that actually hate imprisonment. They'd rather have death. Yeah, this dude right here. But I understand where you're coming from. That can be a fun thing too, especially when you take all their crap. But T-shirt, I'll be honest with you, you did the right thing, dude. They deserve their asses handed to them.
Sure,
they absolutely did. Yeah, you don't go charge. You just deserve. That was good. It's a good move. Don't be stupid. You'll learn next time.
Yeah,
you'll learn. But
I mean, if you just so there was potentially a possibility that they could have overcome that encampment, but it would have taken lots of stealth, targeted hits, lots and lots of stealth, and lots of planning and moving slowly, and maybe doing it over the course of several days and making it some sort of running battle instead of a straight up we're just jumping in the middle of these dudes.
Yeah.
Well, Darth says, that was purely a TPK by PC choice. Right on.
Indeed.
Truth. And hey, you know what? Who am I to not give the players what they want?
Sure.
I think that's a good move. But I mean, I think when it happens when you don't mean it to, it can be a downer. But there's lots of ways to go back from that. You know what? That's a time to remember. And here's a good one. If there's a next time, players can get very attached to their characters. True. And sometimes, I mean, I would say that group, they broke up. I thought that was a good lesson. They should.
Well, and the sad thing is, because it was a post-apocalypse setting, there were no, coming back. There is no coming back from the dead. You're dead. Straight up. Just,
T-shirt. You have like proteges or camp followers or anything like that where they could just say, oh, well, this guy will take up my banner. And
they had a whole community built full of people who followed them, and they could have rolled up new characters from that group.
Perfect.
But they chose not to. If it had been a fantasy setting, if it had been a fantasy setting, I probably could have pulled them through the TPK, because it would have been like, okay, all your party members dead. The 2 guys who survive, you guys have a choice. You can either go and pay for true resurrections, or you can contact, the high priests of their gods and see if can be brought back by some other means. And we could have played it out, and it would have been more fun, and it would have been a less hurtful situation for them, I guess. But because it was post-apocalyptic, it's like, hey, man, this is reality rules. You get shot in the head in the real world. There ain't no coming back from that.
Yeah, you got to understand. Oh, it wasn't a fantasy game. It was
it was post-apocalyptic. OG, or it's like a D20 modern Darwin's World. So
yeah. Do you? No, I have Darwin's World. I think I have the Savage Worlds version of it. I've not got it to the table. Now, did you say you helped write some of that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. I like it, by the way. I just want to get it to the table. Haven't got to yet. So
thank you.
Yeah, that's very cool. Did you do the Savage World conversion, or because that wasn't first, right?
I did not. No.
Okay. Yeah, but the setting's good. Really cool. Well done. So, here's a good one. What's this? No need to run RPGs for people that can't handle being prisoners. They miss out on great songs. Okay.
Prison songs.
Great songs. What you say?
Yes, prison songs. What kind of songs?
He may be referring to All for One, where the characters are also imprisoned, and the bard uses his inspiring ability to get them out of prison in a really funny, spectacular way.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else you want to say about? I didn't have any more questions myself on fudging dice, but in general, I think we 3 would agree it's not the best idea.
No.
Let's let the dice rule and deal with it.
It's like time travel in our reality, our real reality. Mm-hmm. If you could potentially pull it off, You wouldn't want to.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Except as an observer and
Right.
one that's invisible. Because if you went back, there's no telling what havoc you would wreak by changing things. So
What if
fudging dice changes the fabric of reality in the game and should be avoided.
What if I went back to 1936? Just let me go back there and get Superman Action Comics 1 and store that away. How about that? Would that change things?
For you.
I know, and it might ruin my life.
Now, if you could figure out
I could sell it for millions and then be horrifically not happy.
If you could find one that was like destroyed 10 minutes later by a fire or something that nobody else would get in, and somehow
didn't think
get
of that. I could ruin someone else. Yeah.
Right. So if you took somebody else's mojo without, I mean, who knows how? Well, I won't say Bill Gates because he can not have been born as far as I'm concerned. But
would we have this? Yeah, we'd have computer.
Bet on 5 Super Bowls. Yeah.
Dude, we'll just invest in Microsoft and get out early. Okay, so shall we move on to? Do you think we got time, Joe? It's 9:20. Can we do our 2 topics? You think, or do you want to?
Well, that all depends. T-shirt. Did you get a chance to watch that video from the link that I shared with you?
I did this morning.
Okay, it's short. I listened to it on double speed myself because I was pressed for time. But we can talk about it.
So it's on Edition Wars and Gatekeeping by Total Party Skills. You know, I like the guy. I don't agree with him all the time, but I think he makes some pretty cogent arguments most of the time, I think.
Right, and his it was his own take on the whole thing, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't agree with his chasing the dragon assessment, at least not for me.
Okay.
Because if it was just chasing the dragon and saying that older editions are only the best ones, then why the hell am I invested in Cyberpunk or Vampire or all these other things? Now, I mean, granted, okay, I have played the newer editions and I've played the older editions. If I like the older editions, it's because the newer editions aren't really that much better. Example, V20 is what I play for Vampire, which is the old school Vampire.
Yeah.
Compared to 5th edition nowadays, I don't like 5th edition, but I have definite reasons for why I don't like 5th edition. I've laid them out before. Cyberpunk 2020 is the older edition of Cyberpunk, but it is better than Cyberpunk Red. Grim would be the first one who would tell you that because, he's got his reasons because he was a Cyberpunk 2020 fan. As far as D&D goes, well, obviously nobody really liked 4th edition.
Not that many.
Not comparatively. Yeah. Not comparatively. Yeah. I think he chasing the dragon. It's funny. I don't disagree with you. I don't think he hit everybody. I think him lumping everybody in there. And I don't feel like he fully was, but he kind of hit the mark with me. I think, especially since Gen Con 50. I went to Gen Con 50. They had a sort of a mock-up of where was that place? The Horticultural Hall, where kind of first Gen Con got run by Gygax, and they had examples of all the D&D products through up to and including 5th edition, and a lot of major sort of artifact type stuff that you would see in a museum, right? And it really hit my nostalgia feels. And I think I've held on to that for a long time since Gen Con 53, 2-3 years. And when I've been playing recently our Mudsword game and reading the old school rules again and feeling the warm fuzzies, I really think it's, to me, I don't know if it's chasing the dragon, but sometimes I feel like I do that. I think I'm trying to find an experience that I just need to accept. Not every session is going to be, lights out awesome. Some are going to be good. Some are going to be less than good. And it's not about going back to the old game for me. It's just about play a good game, enjoy the game you're playing, and focus on it, and it'll be as good as it can be. I think some people, though, stick to the old stuff. I think he's right. There are some folks that do think, man, back when I was 14, AD&D was the best thing in the universe, so it's still the best thing in the universe. Maybe that's what you really think. maybe you're just hanging on to something that that you're trying to get that high again. I mean, I don't think he's fully wrong, but I can't tell because you've already proven that it's not a fact because T-shirt says no, and for Joe is no. I mean, I'm saying it's not a fact, but
because I can point to some old games, like I will say, like the white box D&D games. I'll always refer to that as a Model T.
Yeah,
it had its good points. It's functional. You can do stuff with it, but there are some weaknesses as well. Yes. And there are some versions of D&D that do D&D better. For my money, it's first edition. I know some people it's second edition, but that's first and second edition are so close you can almost call them the same edition. Almost. If you squint your eyes. But so when I see newer games, especially versions of D&D, for me, it's not necessarily the rule set. For me, it's the feel. Yeah. So, and not the nostalgic feel. It's the adventuring is dangerous. The races should be distinct, and there should be part of that distinction should be felt at the table. So, elves may not be able to have all the same choices as humans, as halflings, and as half-orcs, if you even allow those in your game, which I would say no, because they would be monsters. But that's just me. But adventuring should be dangerous, and races and classes should be distinct, and have some really good things to separate them. As long as that version of D&D does that, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah. I started with Beckme, and well, actually, it was Moldve. Yeah. And I still like it. Yeah. I mean, there are still things to love about it. I mean, it was simple, but it was fun and it was easy.
Sure.
Naturally, if I was to run Moldve D&D again, I would house rule it just a little bit because I've got more experience now than when I was 10 years old and was first playing it. Mm-hmm. But do I think it's superior to AD&D, which came later? No, not necessarily.
I can point to some superior things about it, but overall, no.
Yeah, I can point to some superior things for third edition. That's better than the first, second, and the original boxes. But you're right, and I think that house ruling thing. I mean, like I played. What is that game? It's Swords and Wizardry White Box. I brought that to our Cabin Con a couple years back, and I ran it for several groups, and we had a Lavender's a great half-orc. Anyway, we had a great time with it, and I was kind of enamored of the simplicity. I mean, even currently in our Mud Sword variant, we have one saving throw. We have this saving throw, and that's what I'm really fond of, just for simplicity, and actually because I think it's enough. Make a saving throw. Why does it have to be something special? It can be modified by a stat, and it may change depending on the saving throw, but I don't need Rodstaff Wand, spells, Dragon Breath, Fortitude, Reflex, Will. I don't need those monikers as separate numbers, but you might get separate modifiers, so why don't it just be one number and you modify it differently? But anyway, I'm getting off topic. My point is, I think, it's that simplicity is a big draw. And when I look at AD&D, I look at nostalgia. That's a big draw. Or second edition, I love the settings, like you said. That's a big draw. I find myself liking many versions of D&D for different things. And that's one of the reasons I've kind of got my collection, not fully like it was before. I sold a bunch of stuff off a few years ago, but I've got some of the core books of all the different editions of D&D because I did like different parts of it. And I've always thought one day I'm going to run a Beckme D&D game, and that's it.
Yeah. And first edition is great. It really is. And it's like, and Shadazar would be the first person to say, all the OSR are Chinese knockoffs of first edition AD&D because it's superior. I kind of disagree because it's like, okay, yeah, AD&D first edition is great, but in the intervening years, we've seen all these different OSRs that have slightly modified house rules here, there, tweaks here, there that I like, and you could easily go back and incorporate what you like into it and make your own original first edition game and have everything that you like about all the OSR content in it and enjoy all of it. And since it all cross plays, why not?
And did you guys get in his video on a slightly different note? Did you understand what was he trying to say about gatekeeping and it somehow stopping certain people from making a living?
I got this.
Mm,
Oh,
mhm.
I don't know about
What was he
living.
saying? Well, I mean, it had something to do with him making games eventually.
Oh, well, I think that's him extrapolating.
Okay.
So, gatekeeping, and he has the right feel for what gatekeeping should be. You
Mhm.
shouldn't be gatekeeping everybody but a select group. You should just be gatekeeping out the bad actors. I agree with that. And so what we shouldn't be doing is poo-pooing everybody for just playing 5th edition.
Yes.
If they want to play the game you want to play and have fun
Yeah.
with what you have fun
Yeah.
with.
Right.
But gatekeeping the folks that are demanding me at my table to have equal representation. You know, I haven't heard that, but I've heard people talk about it happening to them.
Right.
And so you point your finger at them and call them stupid retards, you know, or whatever witty insult comes to your head, because that's dumb. But or you can rag on Wizards of the Coast for their incessant
Pandering?
pandering to people who, I know some folks like to say they don't buy games, but
They
I
buy
don't
something.
know. They have to buy some of it.
Yeah.
But you can, I think the big guys, Paizo, you can make fun of for their gigantic boo-boo when they decided to tell people that they have to play their game a particular way.
Oh, it's 2nd edition, yeah.
Yeah, when in their playtest release,
Right.
which they took out for their regular game, which I think they would only do because of some of the blowback they got from that. But so that's how you properly gatekeep, and kind of curating your table. That's kind of gatekeeping on a small scale.
Yeah.
That's fine. And he was saying, telling people to chill out, and I agree. You don't go after just the regular dudes who are just trying to have fun.
Shadow, I just want to put this up because he made a side comment. I know he's kind of joking. Yep, everything is Chinese ripoff. That is just the reason AD&D books go up in value and others don't. Yeah, that's not really correct. Check out the prices on 2nd edition Planescape box sets.
Oh yeah.
Check those out. Check out
Dark Sun.
Dark Sun, Birthright. Check those out. Yeah, they're not cheap.
You have to really catch a good deal to get any Dark Sun stuff. I've looked.
Oh, and try getting Planescape.
Yeah.
If you can get if you can get that for under 3 figures, more power to you.
I have all my original Dark Sun stuff, and I had almost everything when it came out. I was very obsessive about that.
I was crazy about all their
I loved it. It was so unique.
Yeah. What is this? He made another comment, and Max made some good comments about saving throws, but I think that's planned obsolescence is the death of good gaming. So, planning for an edition to be over with, is that his statement? That I know 1st edition is going to end, so we're going to plan for 2nd edition. Is that what he means?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I like about Palladium is they don't trash their system.
Yeah.
They just make new books and new world books and stuff like that. I think if D&D, if TSR had done that, if say Planescape was a world book, and they didn't make new rules because no one wants to buy it.
Thanks, Max.
I don't think you understand economics very well.
Earthdawn sucks. Earthdawn sucks.
Anyway, right. So now I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm old.
Planned obsolescence.
Oh,
Palladium.
If they would have just made world books, and I thought that was great at the time in 2nd edition when they were making all the settings.
Me too.
They could have made a volume for each one. Initially, I think at the time making the box set was expensive, so that they kind of shot themselves in the foot, perhaps. But if it would have been a volume, right, a lot of people like them, but I think at the time production costs were too high for them to really sustain that as a business. That's something that I heard. It may not be true,
right.
But
they said it. They actually said that.
Yeah, so I think that if they would have followed that a Palladium model and not change the rules much, except where they think a good tweak here or there, I think it would have served them well. But every time it's changed hands, either internally management wise or when it's changed hands through being bought, they felt they needed to change up.
Yeah.
I can kind of see what Shadow and Sun is saying. Mostly as it relates to Pathfinder First Edition, because that was a decent system. You know, it pretty much it had refined 3.0 to more or less its best degree of how good it was ever going to get, and they had more races than you could shake a stick at, and you had more feats than you knew what to do with. Not to mention third-party stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem 3.5 had. Same thing.
Yeah. And you know, they had just introduced all these new classes that were hybrid classes that were so much better than the originals. And bestiary after bestiary after bestiary kept coming out.
Yeah. Let me stop you. I would claim that's never a problem.
No, that is not in and of itself.
If you have bestiary 52, I'm down. But
but they would always say, well, these are the playable monsters out of them too.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's kind of like, I kind of think I see where they were kind of hitting a wall with that, because it's kind of like, wow, what else can we do? And I think they also recognize that, hey, this is a good system, but it has problems. We could fix this. But rather than, you know, just make an upgrade to 1.0 with second, they took it in a completely new direction.
Yeah. And
I got a preview of that because I was one of those guys who was really excited for Starfinder to come out. So when Starfinder came out, I got the first set of rules and was looking through it and everything, and I thought, wow, okay, so this is going to be, if they make another version of Pathfinder, it's going to be this. I can already tell the writing on the wall. Sure enough, Pathfinder 2 comes out. It's very, very similar to Starfinder, and it's so incompatible with the first one that myself, my players, nobody wanted to touch it after we read the player's handbook. And we just said, you know what? We're done. We're not messing with this. We're just going to stick with our old stuff.
On a side, I agree with you. I think that's a good point. They definitely, that switch alienated a chunk of people. That was a dangerous move, unless second edition was gangbusters, awesome, better, and I don't think it was. On a side note, Arn Man, look at this. He picked up Planescape setting, Planes of Conflict. That's a box set for the Chaos Planes, plus Forgotten Realms campaign setting for $100, like new. You write it like you stole it, brother, because you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
I mean, that's $30 a box or $30 a product.
That's still a steal.
Great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we have a friend that loves Starfinder, Shadow and Sun. He said he just picked up the whole Starfinder catalog. Is any good? We got a friend that likes it. Says it's a nice stripped down version of Pathfinder. What do you think, T-shirt? You probably can speak more intelligently than I can.
I like Starfinder. If for some reason you were tired of all the rules mechanics and all the heavy-handedness of first edition Pathfinder, there is absolutely nothing stopping you from taking the Starfinder game and using that as a pure out fantasy setting. You could kind of shuffle some of your critters and stuff into Starfinder without too many problems, and there's enough alien bestiaries and craziness out there that you could have characters and monsters and stuff for days.
Right.
I liked it, and I thought the ship-to-ship combat was really fun too, until we had a combat that went like 45 minutes because the pilot refused to engage with the enemy spaceship. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it's good. I like it, and it's okay. This is kind of a benchmark for me. The first thing I do anytime I get a system is to judge how good or bad it's really going to be is I build a character using that system. And if I can build a character within, say, 30 minutes tops, then I'm like, okay, this is doable, because, your first time you build a character is always going to take forever. because I figure I can get that time down, and it'll be easier and easier and easier as we go. Examples
You must
of
not
games.
like Rollmaster.
Well, examples of games that I could not do it with. Cinnabar. That game's too fucked up. There's just no way. There's no way.
I've heard that.
Yeah, yeah, couldn't do it. Immortal, I could not do it. It was just too crazy. It was just stuff was everywhere. It was written too arcanely. I'm sad to say that Mage, World of Darkness Mage, even though creating a character was kind of easy, figuring out how the magic system works is still a head scratcher for me. That's why I'll never probably run it, despite the fact that I own the books and I try.
Legion of Myth did a video on that. Might be helpful.
I need Legion of Myth to come hang out with me and walk me through it as if I'm a 3-year-old. Because the magic system just drives me insane. So yeah, Starfinder got characters built pretty quickly. Not a problem. Was pretty straightforward. First time I tried to do it with Pathfinder 2nd edition. Okay, refer to this page over here. Okay, no. I have to flip back to no. I need to flip back to no. Wait a minute. I need to. After about an hour and a half of just trying to build a basic half orc, I think, or a half elf or something, I just said, "This is ridiculous. How could anybody enjoy this?" and gave up on it. That told me it was a bad system.
Yeah. On Max, I want to get this back to Joe's comment too, and that's interesting that you said that. That's an interesting analysis. I usually want to get it at the table because I'm usually the GM, but I do understand players want to build characters. It makes sense. Did he summarize in some ways your thoughts, Joe? Yes, edition.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah.
Still compatible with previous editions.
Remember when 3rd edition went to 3.5? Mm-hmm. There was a bit of a controversy because at first they were just like, well, we need to make a couple of tweaks. Yep. And then a month later or something like that, we didn't have the internet like we do now. So information traveled slowly. So I'm not sure precisely on the timeline. But sometime later down, not too far, they're like, yeah, we're just going to make it 3.5 because heaven forbid they just make a revision and send out and sell a booklet. And then all future printings are revised,
or give a PDF away.
No, they had to make they had to do it. They had to do the whole core books changeover. So because they decided to do that, they decided to do more changes.
Yep, and a while. Yep.
Right, and then it ended up being that since I predominantly play wizards, when I was looking through it, there was a large percentage of the spells that had a tiny change to them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit, a little wording change or something like that. And
stat boost spells went from minutes to rounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was just, why? Why do you have to change it so drastically?
And they made it sound like you wouldn't have to rebuy the player's handbook.
And of course you did.
Yeah. Max makes a point here too. Typically games with complex character creation have simplified gameplay. I actually thought that with 3rd edition. Because there's all these little things, all these knobs and levers, knobs you can turn and levers you can pull to build your character. But once you've got it to the table and you have your sheet in front of you, you have all that information there. And if you're careful, and you actually calculate everything, you know what happens when you power attack. You know what happens when you attempt to, use two weapons instead of one. You have those stats written down. If you do that, I don't disagree that can be the case, but I think T-Shirt just made a good, I don't want to call it a counter argument, but at least an exception. It sounds like Pathfinder 2 was kind of a pain in the butt, even though maybe
it can be complex. Without taking, maybe your first pass won't make the half-hour mark,
right?
But when you're told to see chapter whatever and cross-reference everything, when you turn to the fighter section, everything you need to play the fighter and to make the fighter character should be in one spot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and that's I mean, yeah, no, I mean, obviously layout, organization, et cetera, also plays into, how fast you can build a character up. I mean, if it's organized really well and laid out really well, you can do it pretty quick.
Yeah.
But, when I'm having to refer, to two different types of ancestral feats, and then I have to see, how difficult it is to multi-class and all this other stuff. And I'm just, I got to the point where I was just kind of, you know what, this isn't even worth my time to invest with it because it's not even compatible.
It's wearing you out.
Yeah,
Back and forth. Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
13 Days had some editing issues, but I mean, you got to bounce back and forth. Having said that, it's simple enough where it wasn't a huge deal.
Right.
And the sad thing is, with as crunchy as 3.0 and 3.5 were, if Wizards of the Coast had decided to continue with that particular product line, just keep tweaking it and tweaking it and tweaking it, we'd still be playing it. But instead, they took this giant leap forward to 4.0 and
leap somewhere. They leapt. I don't know if it's forward, but yeah, I agree.
The last time the Great Leap Forward campaign was used was Mao Zedong.
Oh, right.
Look it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What's that? Say that again.
Yeah.
The last time the Great Leap Forward campaign term was used was Mao Zedong. Look that up. See what happened.
Yes.
I saw what you did there. That was smooth. You went over my head, but I got you now. Sweet. Well played.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So did you guys catch anything else in the video that, piqued your interest you wanted to comment on?
Well, I just think that the chill out and don't harp on each other is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
As far as just us regular dudes.
Right.
Yeah. There's no need to be toxic to other people just because they play a different edition than you do. I mean, that's either that's what they know and they like, or or they don't know any better because they never done. Like I said, we've got a player at our table whose only experience was 5th edition.
Yeah.
Now he's experiencing Castles and Crusades from me playing it, and he's experiencing like a modified Pathfinder 3.5 from when my friend is running it.
Right.
He's got his opinions on both systems now, but at least he's got some comparisons.
Right. Now you need to throw Traveler into the mix.
Oh my gosh.
Good night, Larry.
Good night, Larry.
I love Traveler's character creation system, to be honest.
Life path?
Yeah, I'm a fan of that kind of stuff. I really am. Because the more fleshed out you can make a character, the more fun it is for me.
All right. Well, so let's do this last little segment. It's kind of I titled it "What Happened Last Time," and I want to get into, because you had mentioned last live stream t-shirt that you wanted to get CNC to the table, so it sounds like you did. Was that your first session, or is it a couple of sessions in?
Last week is my 3rd session. So,
are you liking it?
I am. It does take some of the nicer aspects of 1st edition, and it tweaks it in a way that I like. For one thing, it makes monks a viable class, whereas they really weren't in 1st edition.
Right.
Yeah, D4 hit points.
Yeah, the siege engine system, as far as rolling your... okay, well, it doesn't have a bunch of skills.
Right.
Like 1st edition didn't have skills either. But what it does have is something called the siege engine, where every check that you want to make is based around what is your main stat versus what is your weaker stats.
Primary and secondary, yeah.
Yeah, your primary and secondary stats. So, like, if it's a roll against your primary stats, it starts off with a base of 12 plus whatever difficulties you want to add to it. Maybe the enemy's level or something. And at first I thought, wow, that check is really difficult. A lot of people aren't going to be able to make that. But I've been watching it in action, and the characters are making the rolls more often than they aren't, even on the harder checks. Not everybody is getting them all the time. And I like the way that plays out. And this is coming from, 3.5 and Pathfinder 1st edition, where my main complaint, and I just told this to my GM last week, was I said, in Pathfinder 1st edition, it is possible to have a character who at 1st level has 1 rank in a class skill, and then get the virtual 3 points, giving him a total of 4, and then whatever stat it is could give him an additional +4 or a +5 even. And then on top of that, your race could give you an additional +2 on top of that. And then if you picked a feat that boosted that skill, another +4, you have a +14 on a first level character for a dice roll. What is the point of rolling that check? Because at that point, it is a formality, not an issue.
We found in Pathfinder by 6th or 7th level, as a DM, you had to make the DCs on your own. You couldn't rely on the book. The stats, what they put in there, my players had skill checks in the major areas that were just ridiculous. And it made me think, what's the point? You got 6th level characters who are completely skilled at everything in the universe. They know all things and can do all things. And it was just utterly annoying. They never failed.
Our joke at the table, I made this joke, and it's become the running joke at the table, is the wizards actually go to school at the Thieves Guild because the rogues know everything. And so it's the rogues who teach all the classes. Yeah. You know, your university level scholars are actually all rogues in disguise.
But your wizards have 10,000 skill points because their intelligence are high.
Right.
So, yeah.
But the rogue has all the skills.
That's cool. What did you play a full session, like 3-4 hours, 5 hours when you guys played the other night?
Yeah, we've played 3 to 4 hour sessions. We've gotten a fairly good chunk of the way there, and just hitting 3rd level now. Mm-hmm. We're having fun with it so far. Cool. I do mix a few other things into it, but pretty much it's pretty straight C and C for the most part. So
third level after 3 sessions. Wow.
Fast.
Well, yeah. Well, they've gotten enough experience points to get to 3rd level, but they have to train it up. They haven't done that yet.
Look at Mr. Max Boyvan. Sounds fitting when you look at the price and quality of higher education. They're all thieves. That's all right. I'm not offended. You're not fully wrong. A lot of things in higher education is basically just ripping people off.
Very true.
For sure.
I had a college professor tell me the other day that she was like, T-shirt, I've got kids in my class. I don't think they can read except at maybe a high school reading level. They're in university.
Why are they even there?
I know.
Because they had the money.
Yep. I got students. I'm telling you, I got students that I teach at a local community college, and I have students in a class today. They struggle sometimes just adding single-digit numbers when they have to carry. So they'll 8 + 5, it's 13. Carry the 1, and it's you'll see, and I'll see them move very slowly through it, and I'm like, you realize you're like 19. You should be able to do this without even thinking. I mean, you should pretty much be as fast as me. I mean, that's the truth. Not that I'm some super speedster, but I mean, and I do it for a living because I'm a math teacher. But the point is, they should be able to do crap like that. That shouldn't be a thing I have to teach. We actually have a class where we teach basic arithmetic. And that's sad. That's really sad.
That shouldn't be what universities do.
No, well, I'm a college. I'm not a 4-year.
Well,
even that shouldn't be in there. We should start at a minimum of like a second or a pre-calculus level. We shouldn't start at basic arithmetic.
Right. You find yourself a tutor or go to the local schoolhouse, which shouldn't have that many kids there.
Yeah.
Shadow and Sun says, good, make them train for their levels. I love that. Yeah. I brought back training for levels. I think that's actually a thing in Castles and Crusades anyway, but I went ahead and implemented it because I like it. And right now they're in the middle of a dungeon. They have an XP to go to 3rd level, so now their dilemma is, do we leave this dungeon and go and train up for a couple of weeks and then come back to this place, or do we stay here and tough it out at the lower level?
So Joe had he had forgotten he had a day off this week on Monday, being a mail carrier, and so we were going to have a big mud sword game on Saturday. Some of our friends couldn't make it, and so we decided to do a one-shot. We managed to get 4 players together, and we played Rippers. And what I wanted to mention about our Rippers game, that's a Savage World setting, Victorian-era monster hunters. And Joe, this dovetails into our discussion about TPKs or players dying. Joe's character, they were in a 4-person horse-drawn carriage, and a gentleman rolled up beside them, asked them to roll the window down, was like, hand waving them, and they did. And then he tossed a king cobra into the cabin.
Yeah, very kind of him.
Very kind of him. And so Joe's character, who is kind of a gunslinger, didn't get to go. And I got a joker. Joe has a comment about that probably. I got a joker, which is in Savage Worlds means I go first and I get a +2 to everything. So I rolled and it decided to attack Joe's character. And I hit him and I just shook him. He didn't take a wound. But if a venomous creature bites you and you get shaken or take a wound, you got to make a vigor check like Constitution or become poisoned. Well, Joe failed. He used his chip benefit, failed. He goes, I'm done. So he got it. And I was like, I had done a little research because I was running a little module and it said this event was a cobra. He goes, and I looked up poisonous and it says in the rule book, it varies from minor to lethal depending on the type of snake. Because, Savage World's a little more loosey-goosey. So I looked up the actual venom injection of a king cobra. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can take down 20 men with the amount of neurotoxin they put into one bite. So I said, this is lethal. And so Joe's going to die in 2d6 minutes. So in that game, you have some narrative control with benefits with bennies, right? And Powder Puff Nerd was talking about bennies. And so they use their bennies to say, we're near a hospital. Hey, maybe I know my way to a shortcut to the hospital. And they're in London. And so they got him there. But we're all agreeing he's not recovering. This whole adventure takes place in basically 16 hours maximum. It's a one-night adventure. So Joe's character's like out. It's like,
you don't recover from a king cobra bite in 16 hours.
First encounter, first attack roll.
Yeah,
I'll take Joe's guy out. We found a way through an NPC. We had this priest show up who ended up being a Ripper 2, happened to be a PC and had pre-generated. Joe was happy to play him, but I was like, there's a part of that I could see where someone would want to fudge. It didn't cross my mind, but it kind of did, but not really. I want to know what Joe wanted to do. I was going to fudge the story and say Joe's super vigor score allows him to come back the next day, which made no sense. But that was an interesting thing about that night where I said, just let the chips fall, dude.
Yeah, and it ended up, we had some interesting RP out of that because my character didn't know anything about what had happened in the carriage, and the character I was playing was a priest of the Church of England, and my wife was playing a occultist, essentially.
Right. Yeah, they're not terribly fond of that.
But because we role played a particular way, it ended up not being a problem. But it could have been some really tense moments, but it was also just one session. So you probably don't want to get bogged down in that stuff for the one session.
No.
But yeah, it was fun. I mean, I was a little perturbed that my character was, because I was thinking I could say, it's a game. I can recover from a king cobra bite, no problem.
Right.
But that didn't feel right. It was just stupid because you don't. King cobras kill people.
I mean, Savage Worlds is high action, pulp action usually.
Yeah. Pulp.
And Rippers is definitely it. But dude, if you get, even in pulp stories, you get bit by a king cobra. I mean, a full-on bite. People do die. People do get hurt. And it's 1865. So, I mean, it's a dangerous thing to get bitten by a king cobra.
Yeah. It's not like every hospital then had anti-venom.
Yep.
That took some time. That infrastructure.
I'm not even sure. Honestly, I'm not sure if that existed in 1865, did it?
Anti-venom? Probably, but it wasn't a common thing.
Yeah. Not at the
like now. I mean, I don't know that king cobra anti-venom is necessarily common, but they have an anti-venom kind of infrastructure built up internationally, and there's people that contribute to it. They milk snakes and stuff like that and keep a supply, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. That's a modern as in post 1980s thing.
Yeah, so probably the local London hospital would not have had access to that. Oh, cramping. Big working today, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joe's having a leg cramp. He walks like a crazy man, so let's give him a second.
Sure.
That was our big experience. And game mechanic wise, I had a good night. I literally got 4 or 5 jokers, I mean, as a GM, and that was crazy sauce. So
and I mean, and it's not only that. It's like even if they survive the King Cobra bite, there's usually kind of a lot of downtime to recover from it. I mean, like giant sea snakes when they bite things.
Oh,
their venom causes rapid breakdown of skeletal muscle tissue and paralysis.
yep.
And I know I've watched a documentary where a guy got bit by one, and he describes the sensation. He said it was so bad, it took months before he fully recovered from the bite of one of those things.
He didn't do that on purpose, did he? Did he purposely get bitten?
No, of course not.
Okay.
He was just out in the ocean doing his thing, and kind of the usual thing. You stick your hand in the wrong place, and you get bit.
Max says Joe needs to eat bananas. Yeah, and believe it or not, if you drink chocolate milk after a long walk, that's a good idea too. I got a buddy who was I did a lot of bicycle riding a few years back, and a buddy of mine was one of those. What are they called? They do the triathletes, and he would do the big mega ones. And he said believe it or not, he drank chocolate milk after one. And we're talking about cramps. We're not talking about small muscle cramps like in your calf. We're talking in your thigh. And have you ever had those T-shirts? Those are
yeah.
Oh my gosh!
I hate Charlie horses. They're the worst.
Oh, they will bring you right out of your chair. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, they do.
This. Oh, our buddy Tim, who played in the game, snake anti-venom was invented in 1927. If Google is correct, we choose that one.
Yeah. But okay, this kind of leads me down. I don't know how much time you got. I don't know if we're going to get into another segment of craziness here if I ask this question.
No. We'll go right ahead. We might. If we do, that's fun. Joe's trying to cover. Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, we were talking hit points, wound levels, and of course, how hit points as a system for governing combat is kind of wonky at best.
Yeah.
Which kind of led me to thinking about wound levels. And Castles and Crusades has an alternate system for this. Vampire uses wound levels. Cyberpunk 2020 uses wound levels. And I've thought about that for using it in D&D, because I've always hated the idea that it's like, well, yeah, working at 100%, functioning at 100% until I hit 0 hit points, then all of a sudden I'm dying.
Right.
So the wound levels would actually be like at a quarter hit points, you start taking minuses, etc. And then, as the damage starts stacking up, you start taking more and more minuses.
Right.
And I like it as an idea, but my thought about it is once you start hitting enough penalties, you start death spiraling pretty bad.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad idea.
Yeah, I know in Savage World. I don't know. Have you played Savage World, T-shirt?
I've played it once.
Yeah. You okay there, Joseph?
Youch.
Oh, I tell you, brother, I feel your pain. Max says he's added wound levels to D&D based on percentage hit points left.
So you've tried it then, Max.
Yeah, and I wonder how that goes. I'm with you. I do like the wound levels in Savage Worlds, but you get a penalty. You can have up to 3 wounds, and then when you get the 4th one, you're down. I think in Savage Worlds, I don't think it's a death spiral, but you don't want to have much more than 1 wound. Even 1 sucks. A penalty it only gives you -1 or -2 or -3, but it really matters. So, and Max says it's only not a death spiral if PCs are smart enough to leave.
Well, that's the problem.
Needed some
they aren't always able to.
Yeah, true.
Well, Max said he always gives people an out.
Yeah. That's probably not bad, but you're right. Sometimes you can get yourself cornered. I mean, you can get yourself especially in D&D, you might get I don't know why the Lich King would let you leave.
Exactly.
Like, no, I'm going to kill you. You're going to be a servant. I've always wanted a ninth level fighter, skeleton warrior. It sounds good.
Yeah, or you slid into the pit trap and you're down there with like 2 or 3 goblins and stuff like that, and you've already been injured from falling onto the spikes, and you're 2 or 3 wound levels in. It's kind of like, okay, I can't clear this until I fight these goblins off, and I'm fighting with busted ribs and everything. So
I do think, to Max's point, I think D&D you could add wound levels as long as you don't go too crazy with the penalties, because D&D characters can have quite a few hit points depending on what version of the game you play. Max says cleric healing works as written, but potions heal 1 hit point per round. Oh, okay. So they just for a certain duration, I assume.
Well, sure.
Wow.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So no insta heals.
Yeah. No instant full heals. Gotcha. All right. Oh, I see. Every 25% is a ±1. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I think hold on. I keep hitting things. I need to stop that. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. So I think yeah, I don't know. I guess when I play D&D, depending on the version of D&D, if I'm playing 3rd edition, I don't want to add one more mechanic to the game. I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm more inclined
D&D
to-
has a wonkiness to it. Even if you just use the rules as written, the hit points being abstract wonkiness, the whack-a-mole healing that Max is talking about in chat is definitely you're down and you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're up, you're down. It can be like that, and for some folks,
for sure.
the wonkiness of D&D is one of its draws.
Yeah.
Yeah, the charm.
Well, are we about ready to wrap this up, Joe? It's a little after 10. So.
Yes, and my leg is threatening cramping at any moment.
Okay.
You know how it can be. You get rid of that cramp, and then you just move it just right, and it's like, oh, I want to come back.
Got to do something careful.
Hey,
Well, T-shirt, it was a good time. Thank you so much for joining us.
it was my pleasure. Thank you all for inviting me.
I loved it. I love having guys on here. It's just fun and
Right. We've decided to start inviting folks, and
have some fun and hang out with people and
it's just the first one that comes to my mind after, hey, we should invite somebody, and then I see, for instance, you had invited me on to your show, not Randy, because who wants Randy on their show?
nobody does. I don't blame
So
you.
I figured we would pay you back,
Yeah.
have you
Well,
on.
You want me to put you in touch with Grim?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Grim would be interesting because he has very different views than us, I think. Well,
Not
He
about
does,
gaming.
not gaming, more political. Okay. That's
Both.
Political view.
But
really?
but he's coming from a Warhammer background originally,
Oh,
and a what do you call it, a MERP role play first.
okay. Cool.
Role play first.
He played
Or
Merc
you're saying Merc role playing first.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
first.
Yeah, instead of most of us started with D&D. He
Right.
started with Warhammer and MERP.
Right. So crunchy rules.
You want to take us out, Joe?
Yes. So if there is nothing else, if you would like to support our show, please visit the many places you can find us on the interwebs. Our website is biggestgeekispodcast.com. Please click on the support tab. You will find many ways where your money can become our money if you so decide.
Show us the money.
Otherwise, you can find somebody else to click on that tab if you
Right.
don't want to. If you don't want to,
They
You
can
can
show us their money.
yeah. We don't care where it comes from. We're on Twitter and Facebook. Also, MeWe, Odyssey, YouTube. Our email is thegeeks@biggestgeekispodcast.com. Please share the show with your friends
Please.
because that's how this thing grows.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I don't know about how to advertise except where I already do, and I think I might have plumbed those depths already. Twitter and whatnot.
Look at this crazy guy. Tim Scott started with BattleTech. Dude,
BattleTech nerd. Those aren't real role players.
No.
Hi, Max.
Yeah. All right.
Please subscribe, like, share, and rate us in all the places that you find us. Also, hit that bell notification so you can know when we're on. It seems like most folks that like to hang out here are already doing that. And is there anything else? Oh, hey, T-shirt.
Yeah.
Pimp your stuff,
Yeah.
yo.
Dang, we almost left without that.
All right. I threw the link in the private chat for you guys to post up. But yeah, I'm the T-shirted historian, and you can catch me at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on my Week in Geek show on Saturdays. That is not a gaming stream, but since it is a pop culture stream, D&D does frequently come up in it because WotC is a hot topic in pop culture here lately, just like comic books and TV shows and movies and things, which we normally do talk about. And apparently we started talking about food quite a bit lately too. Don't ask. It's weird. But on my normal seasons, I do run Dungeons and Discussions. I try to go Tuesdays at 9 a.m. with my co-host Grim, where we do talk about TTRPGs and TTRPG issues. I also have unboxings on the channel where it's also Dungeons and Discussions related materials. And coming up in March, I am going to be having a little sit down with RPG Pundit. So that is going to be one to watch.
Oh, good. Fun. Yeah, Shadow and Sun, you can absolutely plug your channel. Put that right in the chat.
I was typing that to him,
okay,
which is fine because I am a slow typer.
That's
all right.
Thanks, T-shirt. Yeah, catch him out. Catch his podcast and his live streams. They're really good. So, you don't podcast. You just do YouTube, right?
Just do YouTube. Yeah.
So good though. It's good times.
Thank you.
You don't publish the audio separately at all?
No, maybe I should, huh?
I don't know.
It's another. I know it's interesting. We were getting around 50, 60, 70 listens, downloads, whatever that Anchor reports. And then once we started on YouTube, it has steadily gone down to about 25, 30. So wow. I'm thinking some folks migrated from one to the other. Must have.
I really like podcasting. I like podcasting, but I also like listening to podcasts. I listen to tons of podcasts. So yeah. So just me. Maybe I'm just old. That's an old thing now, huh?
So Shadow, you can post your link there in the chat.
Yep.
Okay. Calvinoni. He comes to my streams quite a lot. Thank you for being here.
Yes. He's frequently here.
Yeah, Cal's a good dude. Oh, look at that, Cal. I did Tunnels and Trolls white box. Okay, yeah, that's pretty standard. TNT was not long after the white box. I think it was like 74, 76.
Yeah. Arduin was out about that same time too.
Yeah. Oh, the people were playing all if we knew that, if you listen to some of the old folks, and I have like Secrets of Blackmore, and that's if nobody else has, that's a good DVD.
I love that.
Yeah, and you'll hear that people were doing all sorts of stuff at that time. It's just that Gygax and Arneson got it out, got the real push, got the game that everybody knew, and there you go. Oh, Shadow and Sun, that is the name of his podcast.
I was just getting ready to say I was having a boomer moment, not realizing the name of his username there was probably his YouTube channel, just like everybody here.
We'll check it out, bud. We will check. I'll check it out. So Joe won't. He don't like stuff. No, I'm the one that usually doesn't check stuff out. I should.
I'm only concerned with my own stuff.
That's right. Your stuff is the most important stuff. All right, man. Thanks everybody for coming. Gosh, this was a good time. Thank you, T-shirt again. It was awesome.
Oh, no problem.
Right. Is there anything else? All righty. If not, this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember,
I'm T-shirted.
He is.
And we have T-shirted here.
Yes, sir.
We need to figure out how to do this when we're...
Yeah, we have a guest. We should slide them in there somewhere. Let them do their thing. Yeah.
Slide the guest in. And this is Joe. And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.